I collect attributes in the apocalypse. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376 Two Big Figures. The next morning, Lin Fan, Murungzu, Muringshan, Li Zihan and Andy gathered in the meeting hall. In addition to them, there were several Li family members here. Li Zihan glanced at Lin Fan and signaled that Lin Fan could speak. Lin Fan nodded slightly, looked at the Li family members, and said, "We are going out for a while. During this time, you just need to do what you should do and don't worry about anything else, okay, leader?" Several Li family members looked at each other and nodded without hesitation. Now that the Li family are all members of the Zhonghang Alliance, Lin Fan is their leader. How can they not obey the leader's orders? Okay, go down. Lin Fan waved his hand. Several people left the meeting hall without delay. After they left, Lin Fan said again, "Let's go too." Yes, Murungzu, Muringshan, Li Zihan and Andy all nodded. After leaving the meeting hall, there was no doubt that they still drove the RV to the mountains, and Lin Fan once again took on the task of a full-time driver. A day later, they drove the cart to the place where they had parked before, and parked the car here again, and then the four people and the dog walked into the mountains. This time, they could be said to have not wasted a minute in the forest. After entering the mountains, they also went straight to the depths of the mountains. Because Lin Fan's goal has been placed on the third-level energy crystal. Only in the depths of the mountains will they have a greater chance of encountering third-level zombies, and only when they encounter third-level zombies can they get third-level energy crystals. When Lin Fan and others started their training, Li Xianun, Feng Yongtan and others were carrying out their expansion work. Although they didn't know that Lin Fan and others went to the mountains for training, it would not have any impact on them. At the same time, in Xianbi Province, Beta City, an extremely large base rose from the ground here. If this base is based on the area, it is at least hundreds of thousands of square meters in size. No matter which direction you look from, you can feel the majestic atmosphere of this base. At this moment, a helicopter was hovering over the base. The people in the helicopter could take in the base at a glance. In addition to the helicopter pilot, there were two middle-aged men sitting in the back row. Judging from their appearance, the two middle-aged men should be no more than 50 years old, but the aura that permeated them made people feel awed. There was no way, their strength was simply too strong, so strong that some people trembled in their hearts when they saw it. The middle-aged man on the left was called Chu Hongsun, 48 years old, with a high nose bridge and sharp eyes. Looking at him gave people a very smart feeling. The middle-aged man on the right was called Feng Kang, 47 years old, with a sharp aura between his eyebrows. From the perspective of facial features, he was a little more fierce than Chu Hongsun. Chu Hongsun glanced at the base below, and then slowly said, "Now that the base has been built, it's time to arrange people to summon geniuses from all over the country, right?" Hearing this, Feng Kang nodded calmly and said, "Yes, we have been waiting for this base to be built, so we have not taken any action. Now that the base issue has been resolved, the next step is naturally to solve the problem of geniuses." Chu Hongsun's expression was slightly condensed, and he said, "I heard that some countries in Europe and the United States have taken measures to summon geniuses for centralized training one step ahead of us. Have you heard about this news?" "I heard about it." Feng Kang nodded again and said, "There is nothing we can do about it. The sudden outbreak of the doomsday was beyond everyone's expectations, and our country has a large population. At the beginning of the doomsday outbreak, the number of zombies was quite terrifying. It was not until now that the doomsday atmosphere of destruction has gradually eased, and we have time to recover and do this. Although we are one step later than some countries, I believe that our country is not worse than them in this regard. We will definitely be the ones to catch up." When Feng Kang said this, he was quite confident. Anyone could clearly feel the confidence in his tone. Chu Hongsun smiled faintly and said, Old Feng, I like your confident attitude at all times. With your attitude, I believe we will become stronger and stronger. At that time, the world's strongest genius will definitely be born from our base. Haha, that's a must." Feng Kang laughed. After the two chatted for a while, Chu Hongsun ordered, "Land in the base." Yes, the pilot nodded in response. Without any delay, he controlled the helicopter to land and soon landed steadily on the ground. Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang jumped off the helicopter. For them, this was the easiest thing. I will arrange people to search in the south, and you will arrange people to search in the north. What do you think? Chu Hongsun looked at Fen Kang and asked. No problem, it's decided. Fen Kang nodded and agreed to Chu Hongsun's proposal. Because one of them is from the south and the other from the north, there is no problem with this allocation. Then we have to have a standard. What age and strength are required to be qualified to come here for training? Chu Hongsun said again. What do you think the standard should be? Fen Kang did not answer immediately, but asked Chu Hongsun instead. Chu Hongsun thought about it and then said, if the age is over 25 and has not yet become a second-level evolver, then just eliminate them. After all, we need to find young talents with more potential. Older people, even if they are strong, are not very suitable for participating in competition and training in the long run. Well, this standard is fine, but there should be another one, Fen Kang said. What? Chu Hongsun asked curiously. This one is that if the other party has superpowers, then no matter what age or strength, they can come here unconditionally, Fen Kang added. Yes, I almost forgot about superpowers. Chu Hongsun nodded quickly and said, superpowers are possessed by very few people. People who can awaken superpowers have great potential regardless of their age. I believe that foreign countries also select in this way. We can indeed refer to them in this regard. Yes, people with superpowers must not be too bad, Fen Kang said. Okay, then we will search for talents according to this standard. Today, we will select the personnel to be searched, and tomorrow they will officially take action, Chu Hongsun said. No problem, Fen Kang nodded. The two did not waste any more time and each selected the personnel they would send out. Chapter 377 turned over. The next morning, in the large square in the center of the base, hundreds of helicopters stopped here. Since the square was very wide, even with hundreds of helicopters, it would not seem crowded at all. Next to these helicopters, people in formal attire stood. These people were all dignified and imposing, and it was obvious at a glance that they were not ordinary people. Yes, they were all evolvers, and their strength was not bad at all. In front of these people, there were two figures. These two figures were undoubtedly Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang. Chu Hongsun glanced at Fen Kang and said, "You tell me." Fen Kang nodded, then glanced at everyone and said loudly, "Your mission is to search for geniuses from all over the country and bring them back here. The specific conditions were already told to you last night. Do you remember them all?" "Remember," everyone answered in unison, and the voice sounded like it was soaring into the sky. "Just remember it?" Fen Kang nodded again, raised his hand and waved, saying, "Let's go." Hearing Fen Kang's order, everyone did not dare to delay for a moment, and entered the helicopters one after another, controlling the helicopters to take off. These helicopters began to fly out in different directions. Generally speaking, they were divided into two directions, north and south. When these helicopters disappeared from sight, Fen Kang said, "Okay, then we can only wait for them to collect the people back. However, before that, the two of us have to report to the chief," Chu Hongsun said. "Of course," Fen Kang nodded again. "Let's go. While we have nothing to do now, let's go see the chief now," Chu Hongsun pondered. "Okay," Fen Kang had no objection. The two did not stay here to waste time, and went to find the chief they mentioned together. In Zhonghe province, the work of Li Xianun, Feng Yongtan and others went smoothly, and they encountered almost no difficulties or troubles. Because, the situation was just as Lin Fan said, as strong as the Qinglong Gang and Dongfangling, who is a level 4 evolver, were eliminated by them, so naturally the remaining family forces dared not do anything naughty. After hearing about the actions of Li Xianun, Feng Yongtan and others, some hurriedly packed up and left Zhonghe to avoid being intercepted. Although some left, in fact, most chose to stay. After all, they had heard about Lin Fan's strength. Before Lin Fan killed Dongfangling, they planned to join Dongfangling's Qinglong Gang. They also knew that some of the reputations of the Qinglong Gang were not so good, but they heard good reputations from Lin Fan. Since they were willing to join the Qinglong Gang, it was obviously unreasonable that they could not join the Zhongheng Alliance. Therefore, many families and forces did not take any action, waiting for the arrival of Li Xianun, Feng Yongtan and other teams, and then chose to become members of the Zhongheng Alliance. Li Xianun, Feng Yongtan and others were of course happy to see this phenomenon. They did not want to see a scene of fighting, which would not only waste time but also cause casualties. It would be best to resolve it peacefully. This movement to expand the entire Songhai province took about the same time as Lin Fan had guessed. It took a month and 3 days and finally ended. Li Xiannian, Feng Yongtan and others rushed back to Songhai city. At the same time, Lin Fan and others estimated that the time was almost up, and also walked out of the mountains and returned to the RV. I didn't expect that we would have such a rich harvest this time, Muranzu sat in her seat and said with a slight sigh. Yes, we harvested 10 third-level energy crystals alone, and more than 100 tubes of mutagenic factors. It's really a big harvest, Muranshan nodded her head. However, the depths of the mountains have almost been explored by us. I'm afraid it won't be so easy to come here to get benefits next time, Li Zihong smiled slightly. Because of Lin Fan's strong strength, their experience this time really turned the depths of the mountains over. Because of this, they harvested a full 10 level 3 energy crystals. With these level 3 energy crystals, the strength of the three of you should be able to break through to the level of level 3 evolvers, Lin Fan said with a smile. As for whether we will come to this mountain range to train again in the future, that is another matter, so there is no need to think too much. I have long wanted to experience the power of a level 3 evolver myself, Muranshan said playfully. The three of them have high talent and potential. They have each absorbed a level 3 energy crystal before, and now there are 10 more allocated to them. It should not be a problem to be promoted to level 3 evolver. The three of them are full of interest in this. It just so happens that there is nothing else to do now. You start absorbing the level 3 energy crystals. I will drive, Lin Fan said. Okay, the three looked at each other, and without any hesitation, they began to pick up the level 3 energy crystals and absorb them. While they were absorbing the level 3 energy crystals, Lin Fan started the car and headed back to Songhai city. Half an hour later, Li Zihong stopped first. Lin Fan had been watching their every move through the rearview mirror. When he saw Li Zihong stop absorbing, he couldn't help but ask with a smile, "Did you break through?" At the moment he asked this question, he also used the ring to check Li Zihong's data and confirmed that Li Zihong's data had reached 12, becoming a genuine third-level evolver. Yes, I broke through, Li Zihong nodded slightly, with an undisguised joy in his tone. That's good, Lin Fan nodded slightly. Immediately afterwards, Muranzu also stopped absorbing and made a breakthrough as expected. Finally, Muranshan also broke through with the help of the third-level energy crystal. Muranshan clenched her little fist tightly, waved it to feel it, and couldn't help saying, "Level 3 evolvers are level 3 evolvers. They all make me feel like I have endless energy in my body. After all, you have improved so much at once. It is normal to have this feeling." Lin Fan glanced at Muranshan through the rearview mirror and said with a smile, "Moreover, as your strength breaks through to the level of level 3 evolvers, your reaction will be much faster when you use a sniper rifle." Yeah, Muranshan nodded obediently in response. The reaction data reached 12, which was naturally helpful for her to use a sniper rifle. There is still one level 3 energy crystal left. Lin Fan glanced at Andy through the rearview mirror again and said, "Andy, I'll give you the last one. After you absorb it, you should be able to break through to the level 3 level. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 378 Appointment. Although Andy is an animal, he can also absorb the energy in the energy crystal, but the way he absorbs it is slightly different from that of humans. When humans absorb, they need to hold the energy crystal in their palms, while animals absorb it by holding it in their mouths. Andy's data has reached 11, which is at the peak of the second level. If he absorbs a third-level energy crystal, there is at least a 90% chance that he can break through. Because Andy has mutated and has a very strong talent. Hearing what Lin Fan said, Muranshan immediately handed the last third-level energy crystal to Andy and said, "Come on, Andy, take it and absorb it." Andy nodded his dog head, walked towards Muranshan, then opened his mouth, held the third-level energy crystal, and quickly began to absorb the energy in it. After about 20 minutes, the 3 horizontal bars in this third-level energy crystal disappeared, which was enough to show that the energy contained in it had been completely absorbed by Andy. "Check," Lin Fan said in his heart, and immediately checked Andy's data with a ring. As expected, Andy did succeed in advancing from level 2 to level 3. In this way, Their team is equivalent to having 5 level 3 evolvers, and their lineup and strength are quite powerful. Lin Fan and others returned to the Li family earlier than Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan. First, their RV was very fast, and second, the mountain range was not too far from the Li family. Li Xianyun, Fang Yongtan and others had a larger team, and this time, those family forces that surrendered and submitted would arrange people to come and see Lin Fan, so the speed was naturally slower. However, after Lin Fan and others came back, Li Xianyun, Fang Yongtan and others also returned one after another. When everyone returned, Lin Fan summoned them to the meeting hall. This meeting had 2 main purposes. First, to sort out the gains of this time, to see which family forces left Zhonghe, and to see which family forces joined the Zhonghang alliance. Second, that was what everyone involved in this action was looking forward to allocate positions according to merit. Lin Fan is a person who clearly distinguishes rewards and punishments. In this operation, he will naturally arrange suitable positions for those who perform well, and encourage those who perform poorly. Therefore, after the meeting, many people willingly got satisfactory positions. Okay, everyone, take a good rest today. We will announce our next plan at the meeting tomorrow, Lin Fan said. The rest of you can leave the meeting. Patriarch Li and Patriarch Fang will stay. Yes, everyone answered in unison, and then left the meeting hall without wasting time. Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan are now the vice leaders of the Zhonghang alliance. Although they don't know what Lin Fan wants to talk about with Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan, these are not things they should care about. They just need to follow the arrangements and do what they should do. Master Li, Master Fang, what do you think of the positions I just appointed? After everyone left, Lin Fan's eyes fell on Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan, and said, I want you to speak truthfully about this issue, without any scruples. His current identity is still the leader of the Zhonghang alliance. He is worried that Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan will not speak out because of his identity. Hearing Lin Fan's words, Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan would have nothing to hide. Fang Yongtan took a deep breath and said first, Master, I will tell you the truth. I basically have no objection to the positions you just appointed, but I don't know if you appointed one of them appropriately. Who are you referring to specifically? Lin Fan asked. In fact, when he asked this question, he already had a rough answer in his mind, guessing that the person Fang Yongtan was talking about was Xiao Feng. Xiao Feng, Fang Yongtan replied. As it turned out, Lin Fan was not wrong. The person Fang Yongtan was talking about was indeed Xiao Feng. Alliance leader, I have the same opinion as Brother Fang. I have no objection to the other people's positions being assigned. The only one who has objections is Xiao Feng, Li Xianyun added. Well, it's okay. You guys tell me your ideas first. I want to see what you think. Lin Fan nodded. Li Xianyun glanced at Fang Yongtan and said, Brother Fang, you were the first to bring it up, so you can speak. I think our opinions should be consistent. If not, it won't be too late for me to add to it after you finish speaking, okay? Fang Yongtan also nodded, and then said, Alliance leader, I mainly feel that Xiao Feng is a former member of the Qinglong Gang, and from the current situation, the original Qinglong Gang members have very high support for him and tend to listen to him. You should directly arrange him to be the leader of the alliance. Isn't the position a little too high? As the deputy leader of the Zhonghang alliance, Fang Yongtan was naturally not jealous of Xiao Feng's position as the leader of the hall, but he simply felt that it was inappropriate for Xiao Feng to be appointed as the leader of the hall. Are you worried that Xiao Feng might rebel? Or that he might take those former Qinglong Gang members who surrendered to us and leave? Lin Fan asked directly. Yes, I do have such a worry, Fang Yong nodded. Lin Fan was silent, then looked at Li Xianyun and asked in the same way, does Patriarch Li have such a worry? Yes, Brother Fang and I have the same idea on this point. Li Xianyun also nodded. After knowing the opinions of Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan, Lin Fan did not feel anything inappropriate. He smiled and said, I'm not worried that Xiao Feng will do such a thing. First of all, I can see that he is a motivated person and will not want to survive in a corner. He sees my strength and potential clearly, and he knows very well that following me will give him more room for development. Secondly, in this operation, according to the situation you described, his performance is indeed quite good. We have said before the beginning that those who perform well in this operation will be appointed to positions, and those who do not perform well as Xiao Feng will all be appointed as hall masters. Xiao Feng performed better than them but was not given the position of hall master. This shows that I am a foolish person who does not know how to distinguish between rewards and punishments. Finally, Xiao Feng's hard work just shows that he wants to stay in the Zhuangheng Alliance and do more for the Zhuangheng Alliance. If he does not perform well in this operation, then I will suspect that he will have other thoughts and want to leave later. So, to sum up, I think there is nothing wrong with Xiao Feng. Chapter 379 Big Bear and Little Rabbit. After hearing Lin Fan say so much, Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan finally felt relieved. Li Xianyun nodded and said, "The leader's analysis is right. We too just thought too one-sidedly." He really felt that they thought too one-sidedly. As Lin Fan said, the more Xiao Feng wanted to perform well, the more it meant that Xiao Feng wanted to stay in the Zhuangheng Alliance to develop well, otherwise he would be eliminated. In addition, the strength and potential shown by Lin Fan, anyone who is not a fool will know that there is a bright future for following Lin Fan. If Xiao Feng left the Zhuangheng Alliance, let alone whether he can join other forces well after he leaves, even if he joins, it may not be better than the future of the Zhuangheng Alliance. Yes, we both neglected some key information before. Fang Yongtan also nodded and said, Xiao Feng's strength and performance in this operation are indeed very good. It is estimated that it will not take long for him to break through and become a third-level evolver, almost. Lin Fan smiled faintly. Now Xiao Feng's data is at 11, and he is only one step away from becoming a third-level evolver. By the way, Zihan's strength has also reached the level of a third-level evolver. Has she told you about this? Lin Fan suddenly thought of something, and his eyes fell on Li Xianyun. What? Zihan has become a third-level evolver. Hearing Lin Fan say this, Li Xianyun was stunned for a moment, then his body shook violently, and he looked at Li Xianyun with an unbelievable face. From Li Xianyun's reaction, Lin Fan could already judge that Li Zihan had not told them about his breakthrough to the third-level evolver. However, thinking about it carefully, it was true that after Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan and others came back, they were all busy explaining the operation, and Li Zihan really didn't have much chance to say. Yes, I broke through on the way back the day before yesterday. Lin Fan smiled slightly. On the way back, Li Xianyun was stunned again. When you went out to act, a few of us also went out for a trip, went to the mountains to train, and harvested some third-level energy crystals, which happened to be given to Zihan and the others to break through their strength, Lin Fan said with a smile. I see. Li Xianyun finally understood. He was just wondering how Li Zihan's cultivation could break through to the third level of the evolver so quickly. It turned out that Lin Fan provided the third-level energy crystal, so it made sense. Alliance leader, you are so good to Xiaohun, it really makes me. Before Li Xianyun finished speaking, Lin Fan shook his head and said, Master Li, don't be polite. Knowing each other is a fate. Zihan's improvement in strength is a good thing for us. Li Xianyun could understand the meaning of Lin Fan's words. That was to say, Li Zihan would go out with him to train. From a certain perspective, Li Zihan's improvement in strength could also be seen as a performance of not dragging his feet. By the way, now it is equivalent to the entire Zhuanghe province is under our control, so we must make good use of the resources. Lin Fan thought for a while and said, however, before that, we still have to choose a place to build a headquarters alliance base like the Qinglong Gang before. Alliance leader, then where do you think this headquarters alliance base is built? Li Xianyun asked. Zhuanghe City is the capital of Zhuanghe province. I think it is most appropriate to build the headquarters alliance base in Zhuanghe City. What do you think? Lin Fan gave an answer, and then asked Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan for their opinions. Hearing Lin Fan's question, Li Xianyun nodded and said, I have no objection. The Li family has always stayed in Zhuanghe City. He is very familiar with everything in Zhuanghe City. Naturally, he would not object to building the base here. Fang Yongtan also said, I have no objection either. It is good to build it in Zhuanghe City. They are now an overall alliance. As long as it is good for the alliance, there is no need to object. Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan's opinions made Lin Fan say firmly, okay, then it's determined. The headquarters alliance base will be built in Zhuanghe City, then, we will select a few cities and build a few branch bases. Let me think about it, maybe 4 more cities. This is equivalent to taking Zhuanghe City as the center and the other 4 cities on the periphery. They can also take care of each other. When one party is in danger, the other parties can quickly go to support. This is good. Li Xianyun and Fang Yongtan looked at each other and nodded at the same time. 1 headquarters base and 4 branch bases sounded perfect. Then, Li Xianun and Fang Yongtan each mentioned 2 cities. Okay, then it's determined. Build the headquarters base first, and then start building the branch base after the headquarters base is built. Lin Fan's eyes condensed slightly, and said, I will leave this matter to you two. Is there any problem? Don't worry, leader, there is no problem, Li Xianun and Fang Yongtan answered at the same time. As the leader of the alliance, Lin Fan couldn't do everything himself. If that were the case, even if he had a few more clones, they probably wouldn't be enough for him. Therefore, Li Xianun, Fang Yongtan and others had to be used, which would also increase the comprehensive capabilities of Li Xianun, Fang Yongtan and others. In the Doomsday, strength is the foundation, but many things other than strength are also very important. Under the blue sky, a helicopter was flying in the air. There were 2 people sitting in the helicopter, a man and a woman. The man was about 30 years old, and the woman was about 25 years old. Both of them were arranged by Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang to recruit talents. The man's code name was Da Shuang, and the woman's code name was Xiao Tu. At this time, Da Shuang was controlling the helicopter, and Xiao Tu took out the map and looked at it. After a long while, he said, Go a little further, we will enter the scope of Zhonghe province. Zhonghe province is the scope of our search, Da Shuang said. I know, Little Rabbit nodded and said, Which city should we go to first? The capital of Zhonghe province is Zhonghe city, right? Big Bear asked. Yes, Little Rabbit nodded again. Okay, let's go to Zhonghe city first. I think there should be geniuses waiting for us to discover in the provincial capital. Big Bear smiled faintly. Hearing this, Little Rabbit expressed no objection. Half a day later, the helicopter arrived over Zhonghe city. It seems to be very lively over there. Let's go over there and take a look. Little Rabbit held a telescope in her hand and scanned everything below. She quickly locked onto the location of the Li family. She could clearly see through the telescope that there were many traces of human activities there. Okay, Big Bear had no objection, nodded, and controlled the helicopter to fly towards the Li family. Chapter 380 Negotiations between the 2 parties. Li family. In the meeting hall, Lin Fan and others were having a detailed meeting to discuss how the headquarters alliance base should be built. Many people gave their opinions. Many of them were engaged in the construction industry before the Doomsday outbreak. Professional opinions are naturally useful. Lin Fan adopted all the good opinions and chose to remove the bad ones. Okay, then it's decided for the time being. After the discussion, Lin Fan glanced at everyone and said loudly, Give everyone 5 days to prepare all the necessary materials. 5 days later, the construction of the Alliance headquarters base will officially begin. Yes, hearing this, everyone responded in unison. Dismissed, Lin Fan nodded. Just as he finished speaking, a figure suddenly ran in from outside the meeting hall. Lin Fan was also familiar with this figure. He was from the Li family and was a person who tipped off others. Leader, the man ran into the meeting hall and came directly in front of Lin Fan. Everyone's eyes were focused on that man. Lin Fan also glanced at the man, smiled faintly and asked, What's wrong? To the leader, We found a helicopter in the sky, the man said. Helicopter, Lin Fan was slightly startled. Li Xianun, Fang Yongtan and others were also startled, and a hint of surprise appeared in their eyes. Yes, the helicopter is coming in our direction, the man added. Okay, I know, Lin Fan nodded. Why is there a helicopter coming to us? Who is in the helicopter? Is the other party coming here with good intentions or bad intentions? This question is worth thinking about. What are you afraid of? With our current lineup, what can a helicopter do to us? If they come with good intentions, it doesn't matter. If they come with bad intentions, don't blame us for being rude. That's right, we don't have to worry too much. Everyone started discussing. Hearing their discussion, Lin Fan's eyes sank slightly. Although he didn't know what the other party was doing here, the fact was that they really didn't have to be afraid of a helicopter now, and it wouldn't be too late to go out and take a look first. Everyone, let's go out and take a look. We can't rule out the possibility that the other party just happened to pass by us. Anyway, we should first find out the other party's purpose before making a conclusion, Lin Fan said loudly. Yes, everyone answered in unison. Then, they did not waste any time. Under the leadership of Lin Fan, they walked out of the meeting hall and soon came to the square. Lin Fan looked up at the sky. Just as the reporter said, the helicopter was indeed coming in their direction. The helicopter was very fast. In less than 2 minutes, It came to the top of the square from the horizon. So many people, in the helicopter. Xiaotu looked down at the crowd in the square and frowned slightly. She just saw that there were many people moving around normally in this place, but she didn't expect so many people to appear at once. The most important thing is that these people's eyes seem to be focused on the helicopter they are controlling. No need to guess, you know that the people below are paying close attention to them. More people, better. Big Bear didn't care about it, and said slowly, the more people gathered here, the higher the chance of a genius appearing here. Even if there is no genius here, we can probably find out clearly by asking them. That's right, Little Rabbit nodded and said. Then let's go down now. Yes, Big Bear responded, then controlled the helicopter to land and soon stopped in the square. He had strong confidence in the strength of the two of them, and didn't think that the people here would cause any pressure. After the helicopter stopped, Big Bear tilted his head to look at Little Rabbit and said, let's go down. Okay, Little Rabbit responded. The two of them didn't delay anymore and jumped off the helicopter. Then, they walked towards Lin Fan and others. During this period, their eyes were always on Lin Fan and others. What surprised them a little was that from the position of these people in front of them, it seemed that the young man in the front was the leader. That young man should not be simple, otherwise these people would not be led by him, Big Bear said secretly in his heart, and he had already made a rough judgment. Of course, when Big Bear and Little Rabbit were looking at Lin Fan and the others, Lin Fan and the others were also looking at the two of them. Among them, Lin Fan's observation was the most careful. Species, human level, level 3 strength, 14 speed, 14 reaction, 14 power, none. This is the data at Big Bear that Lin Fan read with a ring. Species, human level, level 3 strength, 14 speed, 13 reaction, 13 power, none. This is the data of Little Rabbit that Lin Fan read with a ring. It seems that their strength is not bad. Lin Fan narrowed his eyes calmly. The two people in front of him looked not too old, and they were able to have such strength, which was enough to show that their talents were not bad. Another more important point was that both of them were wearing military uniforms. From the way they walked, it could be judged that they must have been soldiers in the past, and it was impossible for them to be pretending. I wonder what the two of you are doing here. When Big Bear and Little Rabbit walked about 10 meters away from him and the others, Lin Fan asked with a smile. At present, since he didn't know the other party's purpose, he naturally didn't need to treat the other party as an enemy. He still had to have the right attitude. Let me introduce myself first. My code name is Dakshin. Dakshin introduced himself in a sonorous voice, then he looked at Xiaotu and introduced, this is my partner, code name is Xiaotu. We are from the National Talent Training Base, specializing in recruiting talents from all over the country to participate in centralized training, so that our country can become stronger in the doomsday. When Dakshin finished speaking, the atmosphere in the field was quiet for a moment. Lin Fan also frowned slightly. Talent training base? Recruiting talents from all over the country to participate in centralized training? Moreover, it was established by the country, which is equivalent to official recognition. If this is true, it is enough to show that this talent training base is indeed a very good existence. After all, there, you can meet talents from all over the country. The competition will be very fierce, and it can also stimulate people to become stronger and stronger. Why should we believe that what you say is true? Murin Shan took a step forward, her eyes fell on Dakshin and Xiaotu, and asked. Because, we don't need to lie about this kind of thing, and we don't need to lie about our strength, Dakshin pondered. What's more, our search has hard conditions. Those who can't meet the conditions are not even qualified to go. Chapter 381 Detection. While Big Bear was talking, Lin Fan had been paying attention to his expression and demeanor. Lin Fan could tell that Big Bear was indeed not lying. Moreover, being able to travel by helicopter and having such strength also showed that they had an official background, otherwise it would be impossible to reach this point. What are your conditions? Lin Fan glanced at Big Bear and Little Rabbit and asked calmly. Those who are over 25 years old and have not yet become a second-level evolver will not be considered directly, Big Bear said. However, there is one exception, that is, if you have awakened your superpowers, you will not be subject to age restrictions. Little Rabbit added one more thing. Not considering those who have not become a second-level evolver at the age of 25 is enough to show that they are mainly recruiting young talents. Because the younger you are to reach the second-level evolver, the more room you have for growth in the future. As for superpowers, there are very few people who can awaken superpowers. No matter what the awakened superpowers are, they can be called elite. Therefore, if you can awaken your superpowers, you can participate in the training regardless of your age, which is also a matter of course. Do you have anyone here who meets our selection criteria? If so, then you can come with us to participate in the training, Xiaotu said. Is the person in charge of the training very powerful? Murangshan asked again. The main reason is that in her eyes, Lin Fan is the most powerful person. If the person in charge of the training is not as strong as Lin Fan, then what is the meaning of such training for them? Of course, Xiaotu nodded. Then just tell me directly, what level of evolver is the person in charge of the training? Murangshan asked. The question she asked this time can be said to be a question that everyone wants to know. All eyes are focused on Xiaotu. For this kind of question, Xiaotu was unsure whether to tell Lin Fan and others for a while. She looked at Dakshin with a reluctant look, obviously asking Dakshin if he could tell. Dakshin nodded slightly, indicating that he could tell. After receiving Dakshin's signal, Xiaotu did not hesitate and said, the person in charge of the training is currently a level 5 evolver. Level 5? The moment Xiaotu's voice fell, the whole audience fell into shock. They had never thought that someone had become a level 5 evolver. But soon a doubtful voice asked, level 5 evolver? Who are you kidding? How could you improve so quickly? For the person who raised the doubt, he was thinking that the previous Qinglong gang occupied so many resources, but the leader of the Qinglong gang had only barely broken through to the level 4 evolver. It was so difficult to become a level 4 evolver, let alone a level 5 evolver. You can imagine how difficult it is with just your toes. Laughing, Dakshin took over and glanced at the person who raised the doubt, and said, just because you don't believe it doesn't mean that no one has achieved it. The man wanted to say something else, but Lin Fan raised his hand to stop him at this time. Lin Fan stepped forward and said, if your identity is true, then I believe what you said is true. With so many national resources in hand, it is normal for a level 5 evolver to appear. Yes, Lin Fan did think so. Both of them said that they were from the genius training base established by the country. Which means that the trainers in that base also have official backgrounds. With such an official background, it means that the resources that the other party can use are generally the entire country. With such abundant resources, it is not difficult to create a level 5 evolver. You are quite sensible. Da Shang looked at Lin Fan and nodded slightly. I am somewhat interested in your genius training base, Lin Fan said. Leader, Li Xianun could already guess what Lin Fan meant when he heard Lin Fan say this. It's not that he didn't have confidence in Lin Fan's strength and potential, but he was still worried about whether what the other party said was true. Lin Fan is now the leader of the Zhonghang Alliance, which is equivalent to the backbone of the entire Zhonghang Alliance. If Lin Fan has any problems, then there is no doubt that it will be an extremely huge blow to the Zhonghang Alliance. Leader, think twice, Feng Yongtan also whispered beside him. He was worried about the same thing as Li Xianun. He didn't want Lin Fan to be in danger. If something happened, the consequences would be disastrous. Leader? Da Shuang's hearing is very good. He couldn't help but frown when he heard Li Xianun and Fang Yongtan call Lin Fan the leader. Don't worry, I believe they are not lying. Lin Fan naturally knew what Li Xianun and Fang Yongtan were worried about, so he smiled and comforted them. Then, he looked at Da Shuang and Xiaotu again and said, if I want to attend the training, should I go with you to test my qualifications, or can I test it now? Test now, you can go only if you meet the conditions, and you can't go if you don't meet the conditions. After all, our base is currently confidential, and we won't let outsiders know where it is easily, Da Shuang said in a deep voice. Okay, then let's test it here, Lin Fan nodded. Brother Lin Fan, let me go first, Murangshan said hurriedly. If Lin Fan wants to go to the genius training base, then they must go too, which is equivalent to them also having to pass the test, and she wants to try it first. You? Da Shang glanced at Murangshan, his face froze. Hey, what's your reaction? Do you look down on me? Murangshan said unhappily. She had completely felt the distrust from Da Shang's tone and demeanor. Xiaotu stood up and said, we don't mean that. If you want to test, let me test you. A simple fight between the two of us will do. Show your full strength and I will make a judgment. In fact, Xiaotu, like Dakshin, did not believe that Murangshan met the requirements and thought that Murangshan was joking. There was no way, mainly because Murangshan looked too young. At the age of more than 10, if she had the strength of a second-level evolver, she would be a genius among geniuses. Shoal, Murangshan blinked and thought that if she showed her full strength, she would have to use a sniper rifle. With her current reaction as a third-level evolver and the ability of a sharpshooter, she even wondered if she would kill Xiao-Tu. Xiao-Tu didn't know what Murangshan was thinking. She walked forward and stretched out her hand to Murangshan, indicating that Murangshan could attack her. Seeing this, Murangshan didn't waste time and said, "Then you better be careful." Chapter 382 Taking Turns to Test. To Xiao-Tu, Murangshan was just a serious little girl. She didn't think Murangshan was that powerful, so she just stood there waiting for Murangshan's attack. After all, in Xiao-Tu's opinion, with her own strength as a level 3 evolver, Murangshan might not be able to cause much damage to her if she just stood there and let Murangshan hide her. Murangshan could naturally see that Xiao-Tu underestimated her. Even if she sprinted slowly at a distance of 10 meters, she would rush up in the blink of an eye. She clenched her jade hand into a fist and punched Xiao-Tu. Seeing Murangshan's attack, Xiao-Tu stretched out her palm and tried to grab Murangshan's fist in her hand. Bang! A loud sound suddenly rang out when the fist and palm collided. Then, a deep look of astonishment appeared on Xiao-Tu's face, and her body retreated to the back at the same time, retreating several meters before stabilizing. This big bear was stunned watching from behind. He never thought that Murangshan could repel Xiao-Tu. He knew Xiao-Tu's strength very well. Even if Xiao-Tu was careless just now, Xiao-Tu was still a genuine level 3 evolver. As the person involved, Xiao-Tu's heart was like a storm. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Because, from fighting with Murangshan in person, she felt that Murangshan's strength was not much worse than hers. She was a level 3 evolver. If she could make her feel this way, didn't it mean that Murangshan was also a level 3 evolver? Such a young level 3 evolver? How terrible is the talent for growth? How huge is the potential for growth? Xiao-Tu didn't dare to think about it. She would rather believe that it was an illusion just now, the result of her pure carelessness. Thinking of this, Xiao-Tu took a deep breath, no longer hesitated, and took the initiative to attack Murangshan. She had to confirm Murangshan's strength again before making a judgment. Murangshan also wanted to fight with Xiao-Tu. Seeing Xiao-Tu rushing towards her, she rushed forward without hesitation, and the two of them fought head-on. Bang! Bang! The two bodies intersected, and there were constant dull sounds. The battle was quite intense. 3 minutes later, Murangshan and Xiao-Tu separated from the battle circle and temporarily stopped the collision. "You actually have the strength of a third-level evolver." Xiao-Tu stared at Murangshan with her beautiful eyes and said something that she herself couldn't believe. Although it was unbelievable, she had to choose to believe it. Because the fight with Murangshan just now had made her clearly aware of this problem. What? A third-level evolver? Dakshin was stunned when he heard Xiao-Tu's words. Why? Can't I? Murangshan raised her head proudly and said, "You are allowed to have the strength of a third-level evolver, but I am not allowed to have a third-level evolver." Dakshin was also a little confused. It seemed that Murangshan had really reached the third-level evolver. It felt like a dream. "How old are you this year?" Xiao-Tu asked, staring at Murangshan. She was wondering if Murangshan was older but looked very young. 16 years old, Murangshan replied. Hiss. Both Big Bear and Little Rabbit had the urge to gasp. A 16-year-old level 3 evolver, this was a bit refreshing to their concepts. Among the many evolvers they had met before, they had never met someone as young as Murangshan who had such strength. Of course, they were not the only ones surprised. The people in the Zhongheng Alliance who did not know Murangshan's strength were also shocked to the extreme after hearing what Murangshan said. Everyone also did not expect that Murangshan had such a strong strength at such a young age, which was tantamount to making them look up to her. Good. Great, Xiao-Tu said good twice in a row after she recovered from the shock. The purpose of their coming out was to collect geniuses from all over the country to report back. They had never thought that they would meet such a genius, but now Murangshan gave them a big surprise. Bringing such a genius back, it goes without saying that they will be praised. Do I meet your requirements? Murangshan chuckled. Yes, I do. You are welcome to follow us back, Little Rabbit said quickly. Tisk. I haven't agreed to go yet. Murangshan curled her lips, then looked at Lin Fan, Murangzu and Li Zihan, and said, I will only go if brother Lin Fan and the others go. Lin Fan smiled slightly, and when he was about to speak, Murangzu and Li Zihan stood up and said at the same time, then let's test it. This sentence was equivalent to the two of them saying it in unison. With Murin Shan's incident just now as a prelude, Big Bear and Little Rabbit naturally would not have the slightest mentality of looking down on them. Okay, Big Bear and Little Rabbit looked at each other, walked forward, and took action at the same time to test the strength of Murinzu and Li Zihan. In fact, the strength of Murinzu and Li Zihan, apart from Murin Shan's ability, is about the same as Murin Shan. If we must find a difference, it may be that Murinzu and Li Zihan still have a little more practical experience than Murin Shan. However, such a little bit can be ignored in such a short fight. Murinzu was dealing with a big bear, and Li Zihan was dealing with a little rabbit. In a blink of an eye, the battle between the two sides began. This fight did not last long. After just 2 minutes, it stopped. I didn't expect that you were all level 3 evolvers. The big bear looked at Murinzu and Li Zihan with surprise and nodded in praise. With his strength, if he really broke out, he would definitely be able to defeat Murinzu and Li Zihan. That is to say, Murinzu and Li Zihan together would not be his opponent. But this is a test battle, not a life and death battle between enemies. As long as the strength of Murinzu and Li Zihan meets their conditions, it is equivalent to pure point. Let me try. After Murinzu and Li Zihan retreated, Lin Fan stepped out and his eyes fell on the big bear. Okay, Big Bear nodded. At this point, Big Bear was actually looking forward to fighting with Lin Fan the most. Firstly, Lin Fan's position made him the leader of all the people. Secondly, they all called Lin Fan the leader, which also indirectly showed that Lin Fan was very strong. At least, he must be stronger than Murinzu, Murin Shan and Li Zihan. So he also wanted to see who was stronger, Lin Fan or him. Chapter 383 Continuous Shock. Lin Fan's appearance undoubtedly became the most eye-catching presence in the whole venue. Although everyone in the Zhonghang Alliance knew how strong Lin Fan was, and they also knew that the big bear was definitely not Lin Fan's opponent, it was worth celebrating for them to see Lin Fan take action in person. Lin Fan was their core and their leader. They wanted to see Lin Fan always win and never fail. This man's aura is so strong. When seeing Lin Fan rushing towards him, the big bear had already felt an extremely strong aura from Lin Fan. He seemed to have only felt such an aura from Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang. This was not to say that Lin Fan already had the strength of a level 5 evolver like Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang in his eyes, but purely in terms of aura, Lin Fan's aura was not much weaker than Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang. Lin Fan's current strength, speed and reaction data had reached 15. He rushed up without any reservation and appeared in front of the big bear in the blink of an eye. So fast. Big Bear was shocked. He didn't expect Lin Fan to be so fast. He asked himself, even if he fully unleashed his own speed, he couldn't compare with Lin Fan. Lin Fan didn't do anything fancy. He just threw a normal punch at Big Bear. As the fist was thrown, a slight tearing sound could be heard in the air. Facing Lin Fan's fist attack, Big Bear didn't dare to be careless. He focused his mind and stared at the fist, then clenched his fist and collided with Lin Fan's fist. Bang! This collision was accompanied by an extremely dull sound. Then, everyone could clearly see that Big Bear's body quickly retreated under this collision, his feet stomping on the ground, and he retreated a full 15 meters before he stabilized his body in a slightly embarrassed manner. Although he didn't fall to the ground, his body shook several times before he really stabilized. On the other hand, Lin Fan was still in the same place when his fists collided, and he didn't move even half a centimeter. Who is strong and who is weak, who is superior and who is inferior, can be seen at a glance. Seeing this scene, Xiaotu's chest rose and fell violently. She and Daxin were a team. On weekdays, the two often fought against each other. She knew best how strong Daxin was. Even though her data was not much different from Daxin's, if she fought with Daxin, as long as Daxin attacked without reservation, she would be defeated in 3 minutes at most. Therefore, the visual impact of this scene in front of her was not small. She really didn't expect Lin Fan to be so strong. The leader is mighty, the leader is domineering. On the side of the Zhonghang Alliance, everyone cheered and shouted after seeing that the victory or defeat was decided. Even if this result itself was within their expectations, the effect brought by seeing it with their own eyes was still different, making them unable to help but immerse themselves in joy. Awesome! Daxin took a deep breath and locked his eyes on Lin Fan's expression. After several seconds, he continued, I am not your opponent, and I can feel that you didn't use your full strength in that punch just now, right? Yes, Lin Fan smiled and nodded, and said, didn't you use your full strength either? Although I didn't use my full strength, I used at least 90% of my strength, and you used less than 90% of your strength, so if you attacked with all your strength, I might be lying on the ground now. Daxing felt like he was willing to admit defeat, and said, "You are very strong, thank you for the compliment." Lin Fan smiled faintly. "To be honest, I never thought that I would meet geniuses like you in this place, and I met 4 of you at once. It was beyond my expectation." Daxing glanced at Lin Fan and others and said, "Does anyone else want to be tested?" "No need." Lin Fan shook his head and interrupted, "I can tell you very clearly that there are naturally other people in our alliance who have met the conditions you mentioned, but they have things to do in the alliance and will not follow you to that base. Only the 4 of us will go." "No, brother Lin Fan, you were talking about me before. Now it's you who forgot," Murin Shan suddenly said. "Huh?" Lin Fan was a little confused by Murin Shan's words and didn't understand what Murin Shan meant. Murin Zhu and Li Zihan didn't quite understand Murin Shan's meaning either, and stared at Murin Shan together. Murin Shan tilted her head and said, "And Andy? Isn't that 5 in total?" "Oh, yes, Andy didn't come with me just now, I almost forgot about Andy." Lin Fan reacted with sudden realization. Andy, Big Bear and Little Rabbit were stunned, not knowing who the Andy that Lin Fan and Murin Shan were talking about was. However, since Lin Fan and Murin Shan said so, they thought that there should be an equally powerful genius on Lin Fan's side, and that genius's name was Andy. "I'll go call Andy over," Murin Shan said. After saying that, she turned around and ran back to the courtyard without any delay. She and Andy were both very fast, and they returned here in a short while. Big Bear and Little Rabbit were stunned again. Except for seeing Murin Shan come back by herself, it seemed that no one else followed her, right? "Isn't that Andy here?" Big Bear couldn't help asking. "It's Andy," Murin Shan pointed at Andy next to her and said. "Is it a dog?" Big Bear and Little Rabbit were both stunned. "We didn't say Andy was a person, did we?" Murin Shan rolled her eyes in annoyance. Big Bear and Little Rabbit were speechless immediately. In this situation, everyone would subconsciously think that they were talking about a person. Who would think they were talking about a dog? "Hey, that's not right, it's a color, has also evolved to level 3. Big Bear stared at Andy and soon found a clue. He was immediately shocked. He noticed that the color of Andy's eyes was not ordinary black, but the color representing level 3. Hearing what Big Bear said, Little Rabbit also took a closer look. It is indeed level 3. At this moment, Big Bear and Little Rabbit didn't know what to say. They could only sigh in their hearts that Lin Fan's side was really full of geniuses, and even a dog had evolved to level 3. "I think that Andy, who can be judged at a glance, does not need to be tested again." Lin Fan looked at Big Bear and asked with a smile. Before Big Bear could answer, Murin Shan added, "Let me tell you first, the 5 of us either go together or not. Don't say that you only want people but not Andy, otherwise you will lose the joining of 5 geniuses." Chapter 384 Going to the Genius Training Base. Murin Shan's words left no room for retreat or consideration for Big Bear and Little Rabbit. She had made it very clear that they either went together or not. In this way, even if Big Bear wanted to say that the base only recruited people and not animals, he couldn't say it. There was no other way. The main reason was that everything that Lin Fan, Murin Zhu, Murin Shan and Li Zihan showed was too good, so good that he couldn't find any fault with them. If he couldn't bring such geniuses back to the base, he would regret it for the rest of his life. After bringing them back, there was no doubt that he and Little Rabbit would be praised and rewarded. Aloud, "We welcome geniuses." Big Bear looked at Andy and said, "Andy is also a genius." This was not to flatter Andy deliberately, but to tell the truth. Even though Andy was a dog, the ability Andy showed was indeed better than many human geniuses, and there was no need to treat him differently. I believe that after returning, Chu Hongsun and Fen Kan would be quite satisfied. "That's about right," Murin Shan snorted softly. "Then when do we set off?" Da Shang looked at Lin Fan and asked. After the contact just now, he had thoroughly understood that Murin Zhu, Murin Shan, Li Zihan and Andy, as well as everyone in front of him, all obeyed Lin Fan's arrangements, and everything was decided by Lin Fan. "Let's set off afternoon." Lin Fan thought for a moment and said, "I still have some things to explain in detail here. At least wait until I finish explaining it first." "Okay, no problem," Da Shang nodded. Not to mention waiting until noon, even if he waited until tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, he would still have to wait. "Master Li, have someone take them to rest, and then you and Master Fang come to the meeting hall. I have something to tell you, Lin Fan pondered. Well, okay, Li Xianyu nodded. Then, he glanced at one of the Li family members and ordered, arrange rooms for the two guests and take them to rest. Yes, Patriarch. The man nodded, walked to Big Bear and Little Rabbit, and said politely, please follow me, both of you. Thank you. Big Bear and Little Rabbit did not waste any time and followed the man to leave. Big Bear had not rested for such a long time in the helicopter, and now he really needed a good rest. In the meeting hall, Lin Fan, Murong Zhu, Murong Shan, Li Zihan, Andy, Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan gathered here. Lin Fan glanced at everyone and said with a smile, originally, I planned to build a base here and then take control of Jiangnan, but now there is such an opportunity to communicate and exchange with geniuses from all over the country. This opportunity should not be wasted. After we leave, everything in Zhonghe will be handed over to you two to manage. As he spoke, Lin Fan focused his eyes on Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan. Lin Fan could be completely relieved to hand over this important task to Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan. He believed that Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan would not let him down. Hearing what Lin Fan said, Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan looked at each other and nodded heavily. At this point, Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan knew very well that Lin Fan had made up his mind to leave. No matter how much they advised him, it would be useless. All they could do was to handle the matter here so that Lin Fan would have nothing to worry about. Seeing Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan nod, Lin Fan was relieved and said, in short, the most important thing for the alliance is to build a good base. I estimate that it will take at least 3 months to build several bases. Maybe after 3 months, we will also come back from there. Li Xianyu pondered for a moment and said, it will definitely take 3 months. Fang Yongtan nodded and said, yes, although we have a lot of manpower, the area of the base to be built is not small, and a lot of materials are needed. All aspects must be done well. Yes, we can't cut corners just because we think it will take more time. We must build the best base, so that if there is a zombie tide in the future, we don't have to worry too much, Lin Fan said. As time goes by, the evolutionary group of zombies will gradually increase. In this way, if a zombie tide breaks out in the future, the overall power of the zombie tide will be quite terrifying. If the walls of the base are not built stronger, it will be impossible to withstand the impact of the zombie tide. Yes, Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan answered at the same time. In the following time, they continued to stay here and talked about many things. Basically, all the issues that needed to be explained were explained clearly. Okay, let's do what we said for the time being. Lin Fan waved his hand and said nothing more. Then, they walked out of the meeting hall. Big Bear and Little Rabbit, who had just gone to rest, were almost done resting. Lin Fan called Big Bear and Little Rabbit and returned to the square where the helicopter was parked. Have you arranged everything? Big Bear asked. Yes, Lin Fan nodded, then looked at the helicopter and said, with so many of us, can the helicopter seat? Yes, there is absolutely no problem. Big Bear nodded without hesitation. The space of the helicopter they drove out was not small. There was absolutely no problem for Lin Fan and Andy to sit in the back. That's fine, Lin Fan also nodded. Since they could sit down, there was no need for them to drive. After all, even if the speed of the RV was not slow at all, it could not be faster than the speed of the helicopter. The most important thing is that the distance from here to the Genius training base is very far, and whether the road in the middle is cleared is a problem. If they drive to arrive, it will probably take many days, which is obviously not as convenient as taking a helicopter. Then let's go now, Da Shuang asked tentatively. Okay, Lin Fan smiled faintly. Okay, I'll start the helicopter first, Da Shuang said, then walked towards the helicopter. After getting into the cockpit, he began to tinker with it. Master Li, Master Fang, then we'll go first. Lin Fan looked at Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan and greeted them. Okay, Alliance Master. Li Xianyu and Fang Yongtan looked at each other and nodded in response. Grandpa, you have to take care of your health, Li Zihan warned. Don't worry, Li Xianyu smiled slightly. Lin Fan and the other four and Andy did not delay any further and followed Zhao into the helicopter. After they were all seated, Da Shang also took off without delay and drove the helicopter back to the Genius training base. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385, Based on Feeling. After Lin Fan and others left, Li Xiannian, Feng Yongtan and others started to build the base according to Lin Fan's instructions. This is also a very challenging thing for them. After all, the base to be built is not small, and there are many of them. If there is a slight mistake, it is very likely to delay the progress. Lin Fan does not have to worry about these problems anymore. He believes that with Li Xiannian and Feng Yongtan, they can definitely solve them well. Sitting in the helicopter, Lin Fan looked down at the land and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Humans can become evolvers, and the abilities of evolvers in all aspects have been greatly improved. I just don't know if there will be a day when humans can fly freely in the sky. If so, that would be true. This is the question that Lin Fan has always been thinking about, but according to normal reasoning, it seems difficult to achieve. After all, the gravity of the Earth has always existed. To fly freely in the sky without the help of external objects, overcoming the gravity of the Earth will become the biggest problem. When Lin Fan looked down at the Earth, Shan was also looking down. She said happily, "This is my first time riding a helicopter. I didn't expect it to be so good." Not only her, but also Lin Fan, Shan, Li Zihan and Andy, it was their first time riding a helicopter. It really gave them a very good experience. After a while, Lin Fan retracted his gaze and looked at Da Shuang and Xiao Tu who were sitting in the cockpit and co-pilot cabin in front of him, and asked, "Is there a standard for the number of people to be recruited in the genius training base? Are you asking how many people will be recruited?" Da Shuang asked back. "Yes, that's what I mean," Lin Fan nodded. "We really don't know about this." Da Shuang shook his head and said, "After all, this is a nationwide event. We really can't estimate how many geniuses in the country will be recruited by our people." "Then how many people did you send out to recruit this time?" Lin Fan asked again. "A total of 500 helicopters were dispatched, and each helicopter has 2 people, which adds up to 1,000 people," Da Shuang said. "Is that so?" Lin Fan nodded slightly and said, "If we take a helicopter to find 2 geniuses, there should be at least 1,000 people." "Well, this number can definitely be reached," Big Bear nodded. "Brother Lin Fan, no matter how many geniuses come, they are not as good as you. You can even kill 4. Shan waved her hand and was about to say that Lin Fan could kill Dong Fangling, a level 4 evolver. Would he be afraid of other geniuses? However, before Shan finished speaking, Lin Fan interrupted her. "Xiao Shan, look at that mountain over there. Is it very high?" Lin Fan gave Shan a look. Shan was quirky and smart. How could she not understand that Lin Fan wanted her not to say anything? She quickly looked outside. After seeing the very high mountain, she nodded and said, "It seems to be very high." Naturally, Big Bear and Little Rabbit noticed that Lin Fan and Shan changed the subject. A doubt emerged in their minds at the same time. What on earth does she want to say for? Just now, Shan was interrupted by Lin Fan when she said the word for, which really puzzled Big Bear and Little Rabbit, and their minds were all on this. They naturally would not associate Shan with the fact that Lin Fan had defeated a level 4 evolver. After all, such a thing is really hard to accept if you don't see it with your own eyes. Genius Training Base. Helicopters landed one after another on the big square. Most of these helicopters that came back so quickly were searching nearby, and the distance was not far, so it didn't take much time to go out and return. Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang attached great importance to this genius training. Therefore, they would personally watch everyone brought back by the helicopter and then make some registrations. Of course, the training was in the charge of the 2 of them, and in fact it also had a certain competitive meaning. Their leader assigned them a task, asking them to select geniuses and divide them into 2 camps for training to see which side would have better training results. There is no doubt that which side has better training results means that which side can get rewards. How could the reward given by the chief himself be bad? But when selecting talents for training, everyone would definitely want to select people with stronger talents. If the more talented people are on their side, then the effect of the training will be much higher to a certain extent. In order to avoid estrangement and conflict between the 2 of them in the fight for the talents, the chief also gave them an order to let them give the decision-making power to the geniuses. In other words, the geniuses brought back can follow whoever they decide to follow, and they cannot force the geniuses to make any decision. Old Chu, if you ask me, The geniuses on my side will definitely be better than those on your side this time. Feng Kang smiled slightly and said half-jokingly. Old Feng, who gave you this confidence? Chu Hongxun glanced at Feng Kang and asked unhappily. I gave myself the confidence, or it can be said that it is okay to say that it is a feeling, Feng Kang said with a smile. Why don't you say it is your sixth sense? Chu Hongxun glared at Feng Kang. Haha, that's the sixth sense, Feng Kang laughed. I don't want to talk to you about this. When the time comes, you will know that your confidence is wrong. Chu Hongxun gave up and did not continue to talk to Feng Kang on this issue. Soon his eyes fell on the young man who was walking towards them. He was a boy who looked about 21 or 22 years old. He was not too tall, about 1.75 meters. He was very handsome and looked sunny. Hello, instructors. The person who was sent out to search for geniuses came up with the boy and immediately greeted Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang. Yes, Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang nodded. The man's eyes fell on the boy and said, his name is Li Keishu, he is 21 years old this year, a third-level evolver. I have fought with him, but I am not his opponent. He defeated me in 3 minutes. Oh, Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang were slightly surprised when the man finished speaking. They were not particularly surprised that the other party had the strength of a third-level evolver at the age of 21. After all, they were all people who had seen the world. Although a third-level evolver at this age could be called a true genius, some big families could cultivate him if they devoted all their resources. What really surprised them was that the other party was not only a third-level evolver, but also defeated the person they were looking for. And it took less than 3 minutes. Chapter 386: A Selfish Motive. Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang both knew that the person who went to search for the secrets had already reached the top level among the third-level evolvers. But this person who went to search for the secrets fought with Li Keishu and was defeated in less than 3 minutes. Even if Li Keishu did not become a fourth-level evolver, it was enough to show that Li Keishu was quite powerful. I defeated you in less than 3 minutes, Feng Kang's eyes condensed and said, did you awaken your superpower, instructor? Yes, Li Keishu responded directly. No wonder, hearing Li Keishu's answer, Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang looked at each other, and a hint of enlightenment flashed in their eyes. Chu Hongxun immediately asked, what superpower did you awaken? Speed increase, Li Keishu said. When I use my superpower, my speed will be increased to a certain extent, so I can win within 3 minutes, so it's a speed increase superpower. Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang both nodded. As for the speed increase, it is indeed a very powerful ability. After all, there is a saying that the only martial arts in the world that cannot be broken is speed. Fast speed means that attack, evasion, etc. are all improved. Even fast speed can be used for sneak attacks, making it hard to defend. Thinking of this, Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang both had a strong desire to recruit Li Keishu. They undoubtedly wanted to recruit such a genius to their side. Xiao Li, your talent and potential are definitely top-notch, Feng Kang took the lead and said, there are 2 instructors for training in our base, one is me, and the other is Instructor Chu next to me. Who do you want to follow? Chu Hongxun hurriedly said, yes, there are only 2 instructors. You can choose whoever you want. It's all up to you. The leader had stipulated to them that when selecting students, the 2 of them could not interfere too much, let alone make any selective decisions for the students. The students must make their own decisions. So, at this time, they could only say this in words. Li Keishu looked at Chu Hongxun and then at Feng Kang. For some reason, he had a better impression of Feng Kang. After hesitating for a moment, he said, then I'll follow Instructor Feng. Haha, good, good, good. Feng Kang laughed out loud, and the smile on his old face was as bright as a chrysanthemum. He quickly stepped forward and patted Li Keishu on the shoulder, saying, don't worry, I will definitely train you better with me. Thank you very much, Instructor Feng, Li Keishu said politely. Compared with Feng Kang's happiness, Chu Hongxun felt that he was not feeling well. It was not good news for him that such an excellent genius was recruited by Feng Kang. But there was nothing he could do about it. Li Keishu made her own choice, and he could not interfere with Li Keishu's choice. Take Xiao Li to the accommodation first, Feng Kang looked at the searcher and ordered. Okay, the searcher nodded. Xiao Li, then you should go and have a rest first, Feng Kang said. Yes, Li Keishu also nodded, and then did not waste any more time here, and turned around and left with his searchers. These students came here to conduct long-term training, so naturally they had to be arranged with a place to live. Therefore, A special accommodation area has been built on this side of the base. After the searchers and Li Keishu left, Feng Kang could not help laughing and said, "Haha. Lao Chu, do you have any feelings to express? Don't be complacent. There must be more outstanding talents in the future, and they will join my camp sooner or later, and they will still surpass you at that time." Chu Hongsun shook his head and said, "I think it's difficult," Feng Kang said with a smile. "Li Keishu is so young and has the strength of a third-level evolver, and he has also awakened the ability of speed enhancement. It's really difficult to meet a genius who is more powerful than him. Besides, even if there is such a genius, how do you know that others will join your camp? Maybe others will still join my camp." Feng Kang is still full of confidence in this matter. He always thinks that there will definitely be more geniuses in his camp than in Chu Hongsun's camp. "I'm too lazy to talk to you about this kind of problem. You will know when the selection is over," Chu Hongsun said unhappily and decided not to talk to Feng Kang more about this issue. So, the two continued to recruit. On the helicopter, Dakshin was still controlling the normal driving of the aircraft. Xiaotu was doing some auxiliary work in the co-pilot cabin, and if Murongshan asked her questions, she would patiently answer Murongshan. There was no way. Murongshan was like a curious baby, asking questions at any time. "By the way, will we randomly assign the instructors who will train us in that base, or how will we assign them?" Murongshan thought of another question after a while, and she looked at Xiaotu and asked. However, the question she asked this time made Lin Fan, Murengzu and Li Zihan curious. Xiaotu thought for a while and said, "There are mainly two instructors in our base, one surnamed Chu and the other surnamed Feng. The strength of the two instructors should be comparable. After all, we haven't seen them really fight, so it's hard to judge who is stronger. As for the assignment, I seem to have heard that the students should make their own choices, and the two instructors cannot interfere with the students' choices. After all, after the students are divided into two camps, there will be an assessment later. Whichever camp is stronger will get rewards. If the instructors can interfere with the students' choices, then the instructors will definitely want the strongest students to be on their side, and there will be a big dispute." Xiaotu told everything she knew so far. "So who do you think is easier to get along with, Instructor Feng or Instructor Chu?" This time it was Lin Fan who asked. He didn't like dealing with people who were difficult to get along with. Since Big Bear and Little Rabbit were willing to reveal some information to them, it would be a good idea to find out more about them now. Actually, they are both easy to get along with. They are very nice to people, but Little Rabbit hesitated. "Just what?" Lin Fan asked. "Yes, please explain clearly." "Just what?" Murongshan also asked. "It's just that the two of us have a better relationship with Instructor Chu, so," Little Rabbit said weakly, "when you choose the instructor's camp, I have a selfish motive. I hope you can choose Instructor Chu's camp." Chapter 387 Anyway together. Xiaotu and Dakshin did have a better relationship with Chu Hongsun. It was not that they had a problem with Feng Kang, but that Chu Hongsun had taken better care of them in the past. To be precise, before the Doomsday, Chu Hongsun was their superior in the army, so they naturally had a deeper affection for Chu Hongsun. "Yes, everyone, when choosing the instructor's camp, I also hope that you can choose Instructor Chu's side. Instructor Chu is a very good person, and you will definitely not make a mistake in choosing him." Dakshin also spoke at this time. "Okay," Lin Fan nodded. They chose the instructor, as long as they were in the same camp, and there were no other requirements. Since Chu Hongsun was a good person, it would not be impossible to do a favor for Dakshin and Xiaotu now. "Thank you very much." Hearing Lin Fan's agreement, Dakshin and Xiaotu both thanked Lin Fan. 2 hours later, the helicopter arrived over the genius training base. "Wow! This base is so big," Murongshan looked down with her beautiful eyes. After seeing the huge training base, she couldn't help but exclaim, to express how surprised she was. Murengzu also looked at the base below and said, "It is indeed very big. This training base is really a big deal," Li Zihan said. The two of them were also surprised by the area of the training base. They didn't expect that such a large training base would be built to train them. Lin Fan was also surprised, but he didn't show it. Instead, he said calmly, "The more this is the case, the more it shows that our next training will be very exciting. I am beginning to look forward to it. I heard that not only will you train here, but you will also be arranged to train in the wild," Da Shuang said. "In the wild?" Lin Fan smiled and said, "That's nothing. Anyway, since the outbreak of the Doomsday, We have been experiencing training in the wild. There are still some differences, Da Shuang said. What's the difference? Lin Fan asked curiously. Murongsu, Murongshan and Li Zihan also looked at Dakshin curiously, waiting for Dakshin's answer. Dakshin exhaled lightly, and said without hesitation, because, the field training arranged by the base seems to be not carried out in China, but abroad. Dakshin's words immediately surprised Lin Fan, Murongsu, Murongshan and Li Zihan. Yes, if I'm not mistaken, it should be abroad, because there are such training bases abroad to cultivate talents. At that time, you will be allowed to fight against those foreign geniuses to see whether our country's geniuses are stronger or those from other countries are stronger. Dakshin pondered and said, of course, I don't know when this time will be arranged. The specific situation is probably known by Instructor Chu and Instructor Feng. This is quite interesting. I also want to see how strong those foreign geniuses are. Lin Fan smiled slightly and was very interested in what Dakshin said. You know, his goal itself is not limited to the country, and he has always set his goal on the whole world. So, it is only a matter of time before he fights against those foreign geniuses. Since there is such an opportunity to fight, it is not a bad idea. At least we can test the strength of the foreign evolvers. Brother Lin Fan, no matter what the foreign geniuses are like, in my eyes, you will always be the strongest and will never be defeated. Murong-shan chuckled. Your confidence in me is stronger than my confidence in myself. Lin Fan glanced at Murong-shan and said with a smile. That's right. Murong-shan nodded. She did have more confidence in Lin Fan than Lin Fan had in himself. It's not an exaggeration to say that she believed blindly. Fortunately, Lin Fan would not let her confidence become nothing. Lin Fan took a deep breath and said, in short, let's follow the pace of the base. When the base arranges us to go abroad, we will go abroad at that time. Okay, anyway, we are all with you, Murong-shan said. Yes, we are all together, Murong-zu said. Where you go, we go, Li Zihan said. It's a pity that Andy can't speak, otherwise, it would say something at this time. However, although Andy could not speak, it still expressed something, nodding its head beside it, using this way to express that it had the same idea as Murongsu, Murongshan and Li Zihan. Seeing Andy's actions, Lin Fan and others laughed happily. Big Bear and Little Rabbit looked at the friendship between Lin Fan and others and couldn't help but feel envious. Okay, we're here, and we're ready to land. Big Bear took a deep breath and said slowly. Yes, Lin Fan nodded. Under the control of Big Bear, the helicopter gradually descended towards the square below. The landing process naturally did not take much time, and soon the helicopter landed smoothly on the ground. Little Rabbit, I'll settle the helicopter first, and you take them to see the two instructors. Big Bear tilted his head to look at Little Rabbit and said slowly. Okay, no problem, Little Rabbit nodded. Let's go down, Little Rabbit said. Little Rabbit jumped off the helicopter first, followed by Lin Fan, Murongsu, Murongshan, Li Zihan and Andy. Their appearance attracted a lot of attention. First of all, Murongzu, Murongshan and Li Zihan were all first-class beauties, with impeccable figures and looks. Such beauties would attract attention wherever they went. Secondly, they were accompanied by Andy, and the color of Andy's eyes told everyone that this was a level 3 dog, not an ordinary dog. Could that level 3 German Shepherd be the pet that evolved? It must be the pet that evolved, otherwise they could have captured it. It's hard to say. The fact that they were brought here shows that they are all geniuses. Maybe they really captured that level 3 German Shepherd. If they really captured it, it only shows that they are very strong. I'm beginning to wonder which side they will choose. This is not a problem we need to worry about. Anyway, we are only responsible for searching for geniuses and will not participate in training. Haha, I'm just curious. I wonder if Instructor Chiu or Instructor Fen can recruit them. Everyone started to discuss. Lin Fan and his companions ignored these voices. Led by Xiao, they went straight to the registration place. Chapter 388 A Powerful Genius. Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang were still waiting for the people who were recruited to bring the geniuses here. This was their job and task during this period. Although they were not required to recruit a certain number of people for this genius training base, they were required to do it themselves and not to be lazy. Of course, before the outbreak of the Doomsday, the two of them were already people with high status in the army. They had strong self-discipline in many aspects. Even if there was an opportunity to be lazy, they would not be lazy. Seeing Xiao coming with a few people, Chu Hongxun had a barely perceptible smile in his eyes. Xiaotu was someone he led before. He knew that the people Xiaotu brought back would definitely have a high probability of choosing his side. In fact, the reason why Li Keishu chose Fen Kang's side just now was also because the person who brought Li Keishu back gave Li Keishu advice. Because the person who brought Li Keishu back was Fen Kang's man before. When Lin Fan and others came over, Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang suddenly noticed that there was a German shepherd following behind Lin Fan and others. German shepherds are widely used as military dogs. They often saw German shepherds before the Doomsday outbreak, but after the Doomsday outbreak, German shepherds that were not infected could not be used to fight zombies and gradually withdrew from their stage. However, what they did not expect was that the German shepherd following behind Lin Fan and others was not an ordinary German shepherd. Level 3, Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang looked at each other, and they could see surprise in each other's eyes. They never thought that the German shepherd had reached the level of level 3. This made them all pay attention. Even a German shepherd that followed could reach level 3, which was enough to show that the strength of the people brought by Xiaotu was not simple. Instructor Chu, Instructor Feng, Xiaotu walked up to Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang and greeted them first. Hello, instructors. Lin Fan, Murongsu, Murongshan and Li Zihan also greeted them. Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang nodded at the same time. Then, Chu Hongxun said, "Welcome everyone to our training base." Fen Kang asked, "Xiaotu, introduce their strength to us." Fen Kang was naturally very clear that Xiaotu brought Lin Fan and others here, which must have been to test the strength of Lin Fan and others. Xiaotu exhaled lightly, his eyes fell on Murangshan, and introduced, "This is Murangshan, less than 17 years old, a third-level evolver." After these words came out, Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang were silent. Even though the two of them were already at the level of 5th-level evolvers, they both had a feeling of doubting whether they had heard it wrong. A third-level evolver less than 17 years old? Such talent and growth potential are simply too terrifying. This is Murongzu, Murangshan's biological sister, 20 years old, a third-level evolver. This is Li Zihan, 20 years old, also a third-level evolver. Xiaotu first introduced Murongzu, Murangshan and Li Zihan. Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang nodded repeatedly. They didn't expect that Xiaotu and action would bring back such powerful geniuses this time. Then, their eyes were focused on Lin Fan. From what they knew about Xiaotu, Xiaotu left Lin Fan to the last, which must mean that Lin Fan was the most powerful one. Moreover, at this time, they looked at Lin Fan carefully and found that Lin Fan did have a very strong aura, which Murongzu, Murangshan and Li Zihan did not have. This is Lin Fan, less than 21 years old, a level 3 evolver. Dashong was not his opponent and was defeated by him in one move. Xiaotu looked at Lin Fan and introduced him. What? Dashong was defeated in one move? As soon as Xiaotu's voice fell, Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang were stunned. They knew how strong Dashong was. Not to mention that he was the top among the level 3 evolvers, but he was definitely in the middle. With such strength, he was defeated in one move, which clearly showed that Lin Fan's strength was extremely terrifying. Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang felt their heartbeats speed up. They never thought that the geniuses that Big Bear and Little Rabbit had found this time would be so powerful. Good, that's great. Chu Hongxun nodded with satisfaction, saying 3 good words in a row, and then said, "Seeing you, I see hope. The geniuses in our country are definitely not worse than those in foreign countries." Yes, that's true. Fen Kang also nodded beside him. Lin Fan and his friends were so young and had such strong strength and growth potential, which made them feel a little impressed. Although they have not had any specific contact with foreign geniuses at present, they believe that Lin Fan and his friends are definitely not worse than foreign geniuses. "Thank you for the compliments, instructors," Lin Fan said modestly. The other party did not ask them if they had awakened their superpowers, and they did not need to say it specifically at this time. In fact, if Chu Hongxun and Fen Kang knew that Lin Fan and Murangshan had awakened their superpowers, and Murongzu's superpowers were also being acquired, they would undoubtedly be more shocked. After all, what he has shown already shows that he has unlimited growth potential. He has also awakened his superpowers. Isn't he a monster among monsters? Lin Fan is not the kind of person who likes to show off. Sometimes it is not wrong to be low-key. Moreover, in such a genius training base, it is not ruled out that there are other geniuses who are very powerful. Not exposing his superpowers can also be used as a trump card. When fighting with other geniuses, he can achieve unexpected results. Lin Fan, I think you all know some things about our base. At present, the instructors are me and Lao Feng. Now you can choose your instructors. After you have selected the instructors and registered you, we will arrange a house for you to rest, Chu Hongxun said. When he said this, he had already started praying in his heart, praying that at least 2 of the 4 people of Lin Fan would choose to join his camp. In this way, at least he would have 2 more real geniuses in his camp. Hearing Chu Hongxun say this, Feng Kang said with a smile, yes, Lin Fan, you guys choose your instructors. The strength of Lao Chu and I is almost the same, you can choose whoever you want to be your instructor. We will not interfere in this matter. Although he said that he would not interfere, he actually wanted to say a few more words at this time to leave a deep impression on Lin Fan and the other 3. This would make him feel that Lin Fan and the other 3 would be more likely to choose him as their instructor. Chapter 389 5 at once. In fact, if there were no suggestions from Big Bear and Little Rabbit in advance, when Lin Fan faced Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang, there was really no difference between them for him. Because, at that moment, he had used the ring to read the data information of Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang. He found that Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang's data were all 21, and neither of them had supernatural powers. So, from the data point of view, Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang's strength is the same, and there is no question of who is much stronger than the other. So under such a premise, choosing Chu Hongxun and choosing Feng Kang as an instructor is actually not much different. However, Big Bear and Little Rabbit have already said that, so they just give Big Bear and Little Rabbit a face. After all, Big Bear and Little Rabbit are both from this genius training base, and there is no harm in making 2 more friends. Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang are looking forward to Lin Fan and others at this time, and they really want to see what choice Lin Fan and others will make. Under the gaze of Chu Hongxun and Feng Kang, Murong Zhu, Murong Shan and Li Zihan all looked at Lin Fan. The 3 girls were undoubtedly centered around Lin Fan. As long as Lin Fan made a choice, it was their choice. Feeling the gazes of the crowd on him, Lin Fan did not have too many emotional fluctuations. He exhaled lightly, his eyes fell on Chu Hongxun, and said, then choose instructor Chu, okay. Welcome. Hearing Lin Fan say this, Chu Hongxun was delighted. He did not expect Lin Fan to choose him so decisively. He secretly glanced at Feng Kang next to him. As expected, he could see a painful expression on Feng Kang's face. Not counting Andy, from what they just heard from Xiaotu, the 4 of Lin Fan may have the greatest growth potential in Murong Shan, but Lin Fan's current strength is definitely the strongest. The strongest Lin Fan chose Chu Hongxun as his instructor. Can Feng Kang feel comfortable? However, this was Lin Fan's own choice. Chu Hongxun did not do anything to induce or interfere. Feng Kang had no way to say such things. He could only willingly admit his bad luck and hope that Murong Zhu, Murong Shan and Li Zihan would choose him. Lin Fan has made his choice. What about you 3? Feng Kang looked at Murong Zhu, Murong Shan and Li Zihan with a smile on his face, and asked with expectation. Unfortunately, his expectation was soon extinguished like a flame that had just been ignited. Instructor Feng, the 3 of us have made the same choice as Brother Lin Fan. Brother Lin Fan chose Instructor Chu, so we also choose Instructor Chu, Murong Shan said. Yes, Murong Zhu and Li Zihan looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Feng Kang suddenly felt like staring at each other. What's going on? All of them chose Chu Hongxun? None of them chose him? Now, compared to Feng Kang's disbelief and astonishment, Chu Hongxun was smiling. He never thought that Murong Zhu, Murong Shan and Li Zihan would make the same choice as Lin Fan and let him be their instructor. This means that in just a short moment, there are 4 more such powerful geniuses in his camp. This feeling is like pie in the sky. By the way, Instructor Chu, not only us, but Andy will also be together. The 5 of us will not be separated. Murong Shan looked down at Andy squatting on the ground and said with a smile. No problem, it's called Andy, right? Chu Hongxun nodded quickly, his eyes fell on Andy, and said with a smile, Andy is already a 3rd-level evolved creature, which fully meets our standards. If we train it well, its strength will not necessarily be worse than that of a human evolver. That's right, Murong Shan smiled. Wait, Feng Kang couldn't help it, and quickly stood up and said, you all choose Instructor Chu. Yes, Instructor Feng, didn't you just say that this is our free choice? Murun Shan tilted her head slightly, and a hint of doubt deliberately appeared on her face, and said, "We have always been together, and we will definitely not be separated. Brother Lin Fan chose Instructor Chu, so we must also hate Instructor Chu now, is it not allowed?" Allowed? When asked by Murun Shan, Feng Kang's face suddenly showed an embarrassed and awkward look. He is an instructor, and they are not allowed to interfere with the students' choices, but he is reluctant to let Lin Fan and others follow Chu Hongxun, but he has no choice. How dare he break the rules set by the leader? Haha, old Feng, don't be reluctant to leave. Didn't Li Keishu join your camp by her own choice? Chu Hongxun glanced at Feng Kang, laughed, and said, "Since Lin Fan and the others have chosen my side, I will not let them down. I will definitely teach them everything I know. You don't have to worry about this. This time can be said to be the happiest time for Chu Hongxun in recent years. He got Lin Fan and Andy to join his camp at once. It really feels like a fish in water." Hearing Chu Hongxun say this, Feng Kang almost fainted with anger, but the two of them often have this kind of bickering behavior, so it's not surprising. "Lin Fan, you register your identity information here first." Chu Hongxun pointed to the table next to him. There was a notebook on it, which was obviously used to register identity information. Okay, Lin Fan nodded and took the lead to go forward to register. The moment he finished writing, he asked, "Do you want to record Andy's information? Just record it together with yours, and you can add one more," Chu Hongxun said. Okay, Lin Fan nodded again and added Andy's information. After he finished registering, Murun Shan and Li Zihan also went forward to register their information. "Xiaotu, then you take Lin Fan and the others to the accommodation and assign them rooms?" Seeing that Lin Fan and the others had finished registering, Chu Hongxun looked at Xiaotu and instructed. "Okay, instructor." Xiaotu nodded slightly, glanced at Lin Fan and the others, and said, "Come with me, Instructor Chu, Instructor Feng, we will take our leave first." Lin Fan greeted them and immediately followed Xiaotu and walked towards the accommodation area without wasting any more time. After they left, Chu Hongxun retracted his gaze and looked at Feng Kang, laughing. "Haha, old Feng, you didn't expect it. I seem to be luckier than you. You accepted one Li Keishu, but I accepted 4 of them. Oh, no, including Andy, it's 5. Chapter 390 Powerful Opponent. Don't be happy too soon. Although they are not simple, they may not be Li Keishu's opponents. Li Keishu alone may be able to beat them." Now it was Feng Kang's turn to look at Chu Hongxun unhappily and said, "Don't forget that Li Keishu has awakened a superpower, and it is a superpower like speed increase." Lin Fan and the others did not mention superpowers just now, and Xiaotu did not know that they had superpowers. So, at this time, Feng Kang could only comfort himself in this way and bring up Li Keishu's superpowers. "Well, you are right. I didn't say that Li Keishu is not powerful, but your behavior of praising 1 and trampling on 5 is a bit narrow-minded," Chu Hongxun said with a smile. "I'm too lazy to talk to you." Feng Kang decided not to talk more with Chu Hongxun. He didn't believe that the genius coming later would not choose his camp. Seeing that Feng Kang was silent, Chu Hongxun did not say anything more. The two continued to stand here waiting for the searchers to bring the geniuses to report and register. This genius training base is very large. If Lin Fan and his friends were to find the accommodation area by themselves, they might have to spend a long time looking for it. However, Xiaotu is very familiar with this genius training base. With Xiaotu's guidance, Lin Fan and his friends arrived outside the accommodation building in a short while. This accommodation area, in layman's terms, is not much different from a university dormitory. However, the equipment in the room is much better than that of a university dormitory, which is equivalent to a single room with 1 bedroom and 1 living room. There is a toilet and a bathroom in each room, so people can enjoy good conditions. You know, it took a lot of material and manpower to build this genius training base. Fortunately, there are many people here. If it were another family force, it would not be possible to complete such a project so well. Xiaotu, do you know who Li Keishu, who the 2 instructors mentioned just now, is? Lin Fan glanced at the accommodation building in front of him, and suddenly thought of this question. He couldn't help but look back and ask Xiaotu. Xiaotu paused, looked at Lin Fan, shook his head and said, "I don't know. This is the first time I've heard this name. I guess he's just reported here." What's certain is that the 2 instructors mentioned his name, which is enough to show that his strength is not simple. Otherwise, The two instructors wouldn't have mentioned it. Li Keishu, Lin Fan whispered the name and also remembered the name in his heart. He had a hunch that this guy named Li Keishu might become his rival here. There are not many students reporting here now, and many rooms are vacant. Which rooms do you want to live in? Xiaotu asked. Each room only has one person, and the various facilities inside are very complete. Can we choose any room? Murangshan asked. There are many vacant rooms now, so we can choose any one, Xiaotu replied. Brother Lin Fan, since we can choose any one, then the 4 rooms we choose should be next to each other. Murangshan tilted her head and looked at Lin Fan and said. Yes, Lin Fan nodded and said, that's fine. Are the 4 rooms on the left of the first floor still vacant? Lin Fan took a look and noticed that the doors of the 4 rooms on the left of the first floor were all wide open. It was obvious that no one had moved in yet. Rooms with doors wide open are vacant. Xiaotu nodded and asked, do you want to live in those 4 rooms? What do you think? Lin Fan looked at Murangshu, Murangshan and Li Zihun. We can all live there, as long as they are next to each other. Murangshu, Murangshan and Li Zihun all expressed no objection. In their opinion, it really doesn't matter which floor you live on. The first floor is for living, the second floor is for living, and the 8th and 9th floors are also for living. Since Lin Fan likes the first floor, then they can live on the first floor, and there will be no other impact. Okay, then we will live in the 4 rooms on the first floor, and Andy can live with me, Lin Fan said with a smile. Andy, do you want to live with me? Murangshan quickly lowered her head and looked at Andy beside her, her little face full of expectation. Hearing Murangshan's question, Andy quickly shook his head to show that he was unwilling. He still preferred to live with Lin Fan. HMPH. Stinky Andy. Seeing Andy shaking his head, Murangshan snorted unhappily. Haha, this scene made Lin Fan and the others laugh. Then, the little rabbit said, let's go. I'll take you to see the room. Okay. Lin Fan nodded and followed the little rabbit to the room. When Lin Fan and the others walked towards the room, the door of a room on the far right of the 9th floor of this accommodation building opened, and a figure walked out of it. If Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang were here, they would naturally recognize this figure. This person is none other than Li Keishu. After being brought here by the searcher just now, Li Keishu chose the room on the far right of the 9th floor. He felt that the room was the most suitable for him to live in. First of all, he was used to being alone, and the 9th floor was the highest floor of the dormitory building. The rightmost room was at the innermost end of the 9th floor. Usually, no one would pass by him, and he liked to be quiet. Secondly, he liked the feeling of looking down on everything, and he had a sense of the world in his eyes. Walking out of the room and into the corridor, he looked down and saw Xiaotu and Lin Fan walking together. Li Keishu was not a lecherous person. Although he admitted that Murangshan and Li Zihan were all very beautiful, at this time, his eyes were more focused on Lin Fan. Because he felt a strong aura from Lin Fan. Even at such a long distance, he could still feel this aura, which could only mean one thing, that is, the opponent's strength was not simple. Interesting, Li Keishu smiled and said to himself, I originally thought that I would not meet any strong opponents here. Now it seems that I was wrong. This person will definitely become my strong opponent. As a genius, Li Keishu is not afraid of meeting people who are stronger than him, but he is afraid of not meeting people who are stronger than him. After all, he is the kind of person who gets stronger when he meets stronger people. The more he meets stronger people, the more he will strive to catch up and surpass them. This is the real purpose of his coming here to participate in the training. If he comes here and does not meet any opponents that he finds challenging, then he will feel very disappointed. Chapter 391 Training starts tomorrow. When Li Keishu saw Lin Fan and the others, they were almost walking to the room. In addition, because he was talking to someone in the middle, Lin Fan did not pay attention to Li Keishu on the 9th floor. But it did not have any impact. After all, they would stay in this place for a period of time, and they would have intersections sooner or later. Xiaotu took Lin Fan and others to look at the room, and Lin Fan and others were very satisfied. I didn't expect the room configuration here to be so good. It's really good, Murangshan made a satisfied voice. Just to build this accommodation building, we spent a lot of thought and energy at that time, Xiaotu said. I can see it, Lin Fan smiled and nodded. Then you can stay here first. There will be unified arrangements for eating. You just need to pay attention to the notification. Xiaotu thought for a while and added, as for the time of training, this needs to be notified by the 2 instructors. I guess they will not start until all the people who went out to search come back. Anyway, if you want to know the specific situation, you can go to Instructor Chu at any time. Instructor Chu will be at the place where the students are registered today during this period. Okay, we got it. Lin Fan nodded again. Now that they have left a deep impression on Chu Hongsun, they think Chu Hongsun will be happy to answer any questions they ask him. Well, I'll lead first. I still have to go out with the action to search for talents from other places. After saying this, Xiaotu did not linger any longer and turned around and left. After Xiaotu left, Lin Fan looked at Murongsu, Murongshan and Li Zihan and said, let's take a good rest first. Yeah, Murongsu, Murongshan and Li Zihan had no objections and returned to their rooms. Of the 4 rooms, Lin Fan lived in the leftmost one, and Andy stayed with Lin Fan. Murongsu and Murongshan lived in the 2 middle rooms, and Li Zihan lived in the rightmost room. In the room, Lin Fan sat on a chair, Andy squatted beside him. Lin Fan touched Andy's head with his hand, looked out the window, and thought, I wonder how strong a level 5 evolver is. I guess he can defeat me with just one hand. To be honest, Lin Fan did not expect that he would come into contact with a level 5 evolver in such a short time. It's not that he didn't believe in the existence of a level 5 evolver, but he didn't expect that a level 5 evolver would appear in his life so soon. After all, among those he had come into contact with before, the most powerful one was Dong Fangling, and Dong Fangling was the kind of person who had just broken through to become a level 4 evolver. I don't know how big the gap is between him and a level 5 evolver. Instructor Chu and Instructor Fang are just instructors of this genius training base to a certain extent. There must be more powerful people above them. Perhaps, it is possible that their immediate superior has already reached the level 6 evolver, Lin Fan thought secretly in his heart. It is true that Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang are very strong, and Lin Fan also admits this, but this genius training base was not created by Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang, but by the country. The outbreak of the doomsday will undoubtedly lead to a reshuffle of certain relationships. Whoever is stronger can be the leader. Since Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang are so strong, there is no doubt that the people above Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang are stronger. However, knowing this is also a motivation for him to become stronger. He doesn't care how old the people who are stronger than him are, nor does he consider how strong he will be when he grows to a certain age. He only knows that constantly surpassing these people is the most interesting thing. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, 3 days passed. During these 3 days, Lin Fan, Murongzu, Murongshan and Li Zihan almost stayed in the room and did not go anywhere else. After all, in this genius training base, they are not familiar with other places, and staying in the room to rest or improve is what they should do. Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang are constantly registering the geniuses brought back by the people who were sent out to search. Geniuses are also divided into different levels. Some geniuses are really strong, while others are just ordinary. When encountering a good genius, Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang both hope that the other party will join their own camp, but this kind of thing is still the same as before. They cannot directly intervene in anything and can only let a genius make the right choice. However, after a few days of trouble, the matter of recruiting students has basically come to an end, and all the people sent out to search have returned to the base. Dong dong. A knock on the door sounded. Wait a moment, Lin Fan said, then got off the bed, walked towards the door, and stretched out his hand to open the door. What surprised him was that the person knocking on the door was not Murongzu, Murongshan, and Li Zihan, but Da Shang. Lin Fan, are you used to staying here these days? Da Shang looked at Lin Fan and asked with a faint smile. I'm used to it, Lin Fan nodded and said, come in and sit down. Lin Fan knew without guessing that Da Shang must have something to say to him when he came to him. It was impossible for him to come here just to say hello and leave. Okay, Dakshin responded, and then walked into the room with Lin Fan. Sitting on the chair, Dakshin said, Instructor Chu asked me to inform you that the training will officially begin from tomorrow morning. Are all the students living here full? Lin Fan asked. When he said full, he was naturally asking if the accommodation building was full. Yes, it is full, Dakshin nodded and said, and this is the case that we haven't searched all the places yet. If we have searched all the places, the number of students will undoubtedly exceed the limit. At this point, Dakshin added, however, considering that there are only 2 instructors at present and the accommodation building is full, we will not continue to search. Let's finish your training first. That's right. After all, this genius training base can exist forever, And we can search for geniuses from all over the country every year or every 6 months, Lin Fan said. Yes, the 2 instructors said so too. They are going to report to the leader and consider recruiting once a year or every 6 months, so that we can continuously cultivate more talents for our country, Dakshin pondered. Lin Fan felt that this idea was completely correct. Every force needed fresh blood to replenish itself, and so did the country. By the way, what about you guys during our training? What are we going to ask you to do? Lin Fan asked curiously. We will also conduct training, or go out to perform some tasks, but we will not stay in the same base with you. We have a training base in another place. Da Shuang replied. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392, Layered. Lin Fan continued to chat with Dakshin for a while, and learned a lot of information from Dakshin. After the chat, Dakshin stood up and said, don't forget it tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Instructor Chiu doesn't like people to be late. If you are late, you will definitely be punished. I won't notify the 3 of them one by one. Please notify them for me. Murong-su, Murongshan and Li Zihan are all girls. In addition, it is already night, and he doesn't know if the 3 girls are asleep. He is not familiar with the 3 of them. If he disturbs them rashly, he might be scolded. If Murong-su, Murongshan and Li Zihan are not strong, it would be fine. But Murong-su, Murongshan and Li Zihan are all strong, and there is a Lin Fan behind them as a backing. He dare not offend these 3 ladies. Okay, don't worry, I will notify them. Lin Fan nodded and agreed. Dakshin has been chatting with him here for so long, and he has learned enough information. It would be unreasonable not to help. Thank you very much, Dakshin thanked him, then changed the subject and said, then I'll leave first. You should rest early and get well for tomorrow's training. Okay, Lin Fan smiled faintly. After Dakshin left, Lin Fan did not delay and immediately called Murong-zu, Murong-shan and Li Zihan to his room. Andy, come here and let me touch you. Murong-shan exuded a cute girlish heart when she saw Andy. Hearing Murong-shan's words, Andy did not delay and immediately came to Murong-shan with her tail wagging, and consciously stretched her head in front of Murong-shan. Murong-shan stretched out her hand and touched Andy's head. While touching, she looked up at Lin Fan and asked curiously, Brother Lin Fan, what's the matter with you calling us here so late at night? I almost fell asleep just now. She was indeed lying on the bed preparing to go to sleep just now, but she had to get up after hearing Lin Fan's call. Murong-zu and Li Zihan also locked their eyes on Lin Fan. They knew very well that Lin Fan must have something to do when he came to see them so late, otherwise he would never bother them so late. Lin Fan smiled and said, just now, Dakshin came to me and asked me to tell you that the training will start at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We should not be late. If we are late, the instructor will punish us. Okay. Hearing what Lin Fan said, Murong-zu, Murong-shan and Li Zihan looked at each other and nodded. They had been waiting for so many days and were bored. It was naturally a good thing to be able to start training. Lin Fan, what kind of training do you think we will have here? Murong-zu asked curiously. This question was also what Murong-shan and Li Zihan were curious about. The 2 of them also locked their eyes on Lin Fan. Lin Fan thought about it and shook his head. I'm not sure, but I think the training here will still be carried out in different levels. Different levels? Li Zihan didn't quite understand what Lin Fan meant, and said, what do you mean specifically? That is to say, some of the students who come here are level 2 evolvers, and some are level 3 evolvers. The intensity of training for level 2 evolvers and level 3 evolvers will definitely be different. It is impossible for level 2 evolvers to bear the intensity of training for level 3 evolvers. If that happens, level 2 evolvers will definitely not be able to support it. On the contrary, if the intensity of training for level 3 evolvers is the same as the for level 2 evolvers, then it will also be meaningless for level 3 evolvers. Lin Fan said what he was thinking. Hearing this, Murong-zu, Murong-shan and Li Zihan all felt that what he said made sense. People of different levels will definitely carry out training of different intensities. If they are all mixed together, it is really too unfair. What's more, they came here to make themselves stronger, not to be lazy. If level 3 evolvers like them were to bear the intensity of training for level 2 evolvers, then there is no doubt that it will be meaningless to improve their strength. Fortunately, we are all level 3 evolvers. No matter how we are assigned during training, we will be in the same group. We will not be separated for training, Shan chuckled. Of course, Lin Fan smiled and nodded, saying, in short, we will know what the training items are tomorrow. It's getting late now. You should all go to rest and adjust your spirits to the best to welcome tomorrow's training. Well, okay, you should also rest early. After Shan and Li Zihan responded, they did not waste any more time, turned around and walked out of Lin Fan's room, returned to their rooms, and began to lie on the bed to rest. Lin Fan continued to sit and think for a while, and also did not waste any more time, lying on the bed to rest. The next morning, at 7:30, a horn sounded. This horn sound was obviously calling the students in the dormitory to get up. However, it is worth mentioning that the horn sound did not last too long. It stopped after about 10 seconds. Smart students can guess that if the students who heard the horn did not get up, they might face the problem of being late for the assembly. Once late, they will definitely be punished. Lin Fan had woken up long before the horn sounded. After hearing the horn, he immediately started to wash up, pack up quickly and walked out of the room with Andy. After waiting for a while, Shan and Li Zihan also came out of the room. Let's go eat something and then gather after eating. Lin Fan estimated the time. There were about 15 minutes left. It would take about 10 minutes to go to the cafeteria here to have breakfast. The remaining 5 minutes were enough for them to gather at the big square. Yet, Shan and Li Zihan naturally had no objection to Lin Fan's proposal. They nodded and followed Lin Fan to the place where they could eat. After eating, they also did not delay at all and walked towards the big square again. At this time, there were already a lot of people gathered here in the big square. Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang stood at the front of the crowd. That was the position reserved for their instructors. Seeing Lin Fan and his friends coming, Chu Hongsun also nodded slightly at Lin Fan and his friends, which was considered a calm greeting. Of course, the appearance of Lin Fan and his companions would undoubtedly become the focus of many people's attention. Although some people had seen them that day, many people had not seen them. Shan, Li Zihan, and Andy all became the focus of their discussion, but compared with them, Lin Fan seemed to have no topic and was ignored by them. Chapter 393 Public Enemy. Those three girls are so beautiful. I wonder what their names are. Yes, they are really beautiful. I haven't seen such beautiful girls before the doomsday. Don't just look at their beauty, take a closer look at the German Shepherd following behind them. It has reached the 3rd level. What? That German Shepherd has reached the 3rd level? Damn. I didn't notice if you didn't tell me. The color of the eyes really represents the 3rd level. Isn't this too horrible? Isn't this equivalent to having a 3rd level German Shepherd as a pet? The facts are in front of us. How could it be false? Awesome, awesome, absolutely amazing. Having a 3rd level German Shepherd as a pet can only mean that they are very strong. That's not clear. After all, we haven't had any contact with them yet, and we don't know their specific strength. Don't worry, you'll know soon. Why do you say you'll know soon? Because we are training here. We need to be divided into 2nd level evolvers and 3rd level evolvers, and the training levels of these 2 levels of evolvers are different. I see. The people in the square looked at Lin Fan and the others and unfolded their various statements. Finally, someone remembered Lin Fan's existence. The man looked at Lin Fan with hostility and said, "Damn. That guy is so lucky to be able to walk with 3 such beautiful women. It's so jealous. Yes, I didn't notice him just now. He is the one who deserves to be beaten the most. Let's find a chance to talk to him in private. He is so close to the 3 beauties, he should know their personalities very well. That's a good idea. Let's get to know the personalities of the 3 beauties from him first. Then it will be easy to get close to them when we get in touch with them. Haha, okay, then we will go and talk to that guy together. No problem, it's a happy decision." When a small group of people focused their attention on Lin Fan, voices targeting Lin Fan spread instantly. The goal of these people was obviously to get along well with Shan, and Li Zihan. In their eyes, Lin Fan was just a chess piece that could be used. Although they spoke in a low voice, in fact, with Lin Fan's hearing, he could hear what they said, but he didn't want to care. Of course, what made him speechless was that he seemed to have become the public enemy of everyone just walking beside 3 beauties on the first day of training. Fortunately, he was strong enough to protect himself. If he was weak, he would have been beaten badly. Lin Fan, Murongzhu, Murangshan, Li Zihan and Andy quickly merged into the crowd. Murangshan took a look at the situation around her, then walked to Lin Fan and whispered in a voice full of smugness, "Brother Lin Fan, I feel like there are many eyes targeting you." Hearing Murangshan say this, Lin Fan immediately spread his hands helplessly and said, "If I hadn't walked beside you, I wouldn't have been targeted by so many eyes." Then they want to walk beside us, but they don't have such an opportunity yet. Murangshan laughed cunningly. "So, I have to thank you for giving me the opportunity to walk beside you?" Lin Fan asked jokingly. "That's right, after all, this opportunity is rare." Murangshan continued to laugh. "Haha, it's okay." Lin Fan was also amused by her. "Look, Li Keishu is here." At this moment, a voice rang out from the crowd. Most of the people's eyes shifted at this moment, looking towards the young figure that was walking towards this side. Hearing this name, Lin Fan's eyes also fixed, and like everyone else, he shifted his gaze. Murongzhu, Murangshan, and Li Zihan saw other people looking at Li Keishu, and they also looked in their direction. Li Keishu was wearing a black outfit today, which gave people a very domineering feeling. He walked towards the crowd, and did not pay much attention to the gazes of the people looking at him. This feeling was as if he was used to being the moon surrounded by stars. However, when he felt one of the gazes, he changed slightly. That gaze was not from someone else, but from Lin Fan. Lin Fan's eyes met with Li Keishu's in the air. "Read." At the moment of looking at each other, Lin Fan said in his heart, and used the ring to read Li Keishu's data information. Species, human level, level 3 strength, 15 speed, 15 reaction, 15 superpower, speed boost. After seeing Li Keishu's data clearly, Lin Fan's eyes also flashed with a subtle surprise. Unexpectedly, this guy not only has the same data as him, but also has awakened superpowers. Speed boost? Lin Fan thought secretly. If you understand it literally, it should be that after using superpowers, there will be a certain boost effect on one's own speed. His own speed data has reached 15, and with a boost effect, it will at least reach 16, which is to enter the speed level of a 4th level evolver. How fast is the speed of a 4th level evolver? Lin Fan has had a very clear experience of Dongfang Ling. It can be said without hesitation that if Li Keishu's speed boost superpower is used, he will have to trap Li Keishu and use his superpowers in the same way. Otherwise, in front of the speed of a 4th level evolver, he still can't catch up. "Brother Lin Fan, isn't this Li Keishu the one the instructors mentioned that day?" Murangshan glanced at Li Keishu, then tilted her head to look at Lin Fan and asked. "Well, if nothing unexpected happens, it should be the same person." Lin Fan nodded. "I don't think there's anything special about her. She's not as handsome as you, Brother Lin Fan," Murangshan complained. Lin Fan shook his head helplessly after being praised by Murangshan suddenly, and said, "Don't underestimate this person, he is very strong, very strong." Murangshan blinked curiously and asked, "How strong is very strong? Is he stronger than you?" Lin Fan, "It's hard to judge. After all, I haven't really fought with him, so I don't know his specific strength," Lin Fan said in a deep voice, "but you have to believe that anyone who can be mentioned by 2 instructors must not be simple." Hearing this, Murangshan nodded and said, "That's true. If he was simple, the 2 instructors would definitely not mention him." Although Murangshan has a quirky personality, it does not mean that she will be arrogant. Since Lin Fan said so, she will definitely take it seriously. Chapter 394 Mu Hongling. In fact, the reason why Li Keishu has such a great reputation is not because Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang have mentioned it to every student who has reported. On the contrary, Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang have only mentioned Li Keishu in front of Lin Fan and others. As for the spread of Li Keishu's reputation, it was because of a conflict he had with another person in the dormitory building 2 days ago. At that time, that person was also a level 3 evolver, and he was the type who is quite arrogant. He thought that he was so strong and that no one was stronger than him. So, when he and Li Keishu walked face to face, he didn't pay attention to the road and bumped into Li Keishu. Originally, Li Keishu was not the kind of person who would not let others go even if they were right. Before he could say anything to ask that person to apologize, that person instantly jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on, accusing Li Keishu of walking without eyes, and became more and more arrogant, even pointing at Li Keishu's nose and scolding. Even clay Buddhas have tempers, not to mention that Li Keishu is not a clay Buddha, but a genius with real strength. The opponent's arrogance and contempt for others made Li Keqiu extremely angry. Without saying anything, he directly attacked. Seeing Li Keqiu's move, the opponent sneered and said more arrogantly, "I am a level 3 evolver, and you dare to attack me? You are really asking for a fight." After saying this, the people watching around knew that the opponent was such a young level 3 evolver. Just when the onlookers thought that Li Keqiu would definitely be beaten up, they didn't expect that Li Keqiu would show even more powerful strength. One punch, just one punch, knocked the opponent out, and even knocked out one of his front teeth. Such a gorgeous reversal of the scene made the surrounding atmosphere quiet for a moment, and then immediately burst into warm applause and intense carnival. No one expected that Li Keqiu's strength would be so strong that a level 3 evolver could be knocked out with one punch. It was from that time that the name Li Keqiu began to gradually spread among the students. However, at that time of day, Lin Fan and the other 4 happened to go to eat and did not see this scene, so they didn't know what happened in the dormitory building. Because the 4 of them were not the kind of people who like to join in the fun, they returned to their rooms after eating and did not listen to other people's gossip. Murenzhu and Li Zihan heard the conversation between Lin Fan and Murenshan. Murenzhu and Li Zihan swept their beautiful eyes over Li Keqiu, and they also firmly remembered this name. They both knew that the person who could make Lin Fan give a simple evaluation was definitely not simple, and they trusted Lin Fan very much. Li Keqiu looked at Lin Fan for a moment, then retracted her gaze and walked into the crowd. There were many guys who wanted to get close to Li Keqiu and get on good terms with her, but all of them returned in vain. After all, Li Keqiu did not want to get on good terms with these people. He came here just to compete with stronger people and make himself stronger, not to make friends here. "Look! Mu Hongling is here too." At this moment, a shout came from the crowd again. As the shout spread, everyone's eyes were looking at a figure walking slowly. This pretty figure, wearing a lavender sportswear, tied her hair into a ponytail, had very delicate facial features, very white skin, was about 1.7 meters tall, and must weigh less than 100 pounds. Her figure could be said to be very perfect. Even though she was wearing sportswear, it was difficult to conceal her magnificent figure, which made the clothes of the sportswear stand out high. If there were any experienced people, they would be able to roughly guess that one of the other person's circumferences would definitely not be lower than the letter C, and there was a 90% chance that it was the letter D. Speaking of appearance alone, this girl named Mu Hongling was not better than Murenzhu, Murengshan, and Li Zihun. The appearance of the 4 of them was comparable, but Mu Hongling's magnificent figure was indeed higher than Murenzhu, Murengshan, and Li Zihun. In addition, she was now on stage alone, attracting a lot of attention. Mu Hongling's figure and appearance are simply perfect. I wonder what kind of man she will choose as her husband in the future. I don't know what kind of man she will choose as her husband, I only know that she will never choose you as her husband. Look at your pig-like appearance, my saliva is about to flow out. Can you restrain yourself a little? Haha, isn't it that I can't help seeing a beautiful woman? I don't expect that I can become her husband. I just said it casually, however, I still prefer the 3 girls just now. Although Mu Hongling is very beautiful and has a hot body, she is not my type. You like 3 girls at once? You are so bold, what is there to be afraid of? I am not as wretched as you. I appreciate everything beautiful with a normal eye. Mu Hongling's appearance made the atmosphere here lively again. As the eyes gathered on Mu Hongling, the voices of discussion also started fiercely. Mu Hongling ignored these voices. Whether it was before or after the outbreak of the doomsday, she would become the focus of people's discussion wherever she went. Therefore, she had long been accustomed to such a situation, and it didn't matter if there was one more person to discuss or one less person to discuss. Of course, she did not attract so much attention just by her beauty and figure. Her situation was somewhat similar to that of Li Keqiu. Both of them became famous because of a single attack. Li Keqiu was hit by someone, and the other party's attitude was extremely arrogant, which led to her attack. In her case, someone deliberately approached her and wanted to know her situation, but she hit her back. In fact, the way that person approached her was also very normal. It was not the approach of the wretched Xiaoliu. He just walked over and said, "Beautiful, can we go for a walk together?" As soon as this sentence was said, Mu Hongling attacked without saying a word. Therefore, in the minds of many people, Mu Hongling is also known as an iceberg beauty. How dare they provoke her? They can only have the courage to discuss it while the 2 instructors Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang are here. If they met Mu Hongling in private, They would have to stay away from her to avoid accidentally offending Mu Hongling and being beaten. When Mu Hongling walked towards the crowd, her eyes also looked at Murangzhu, Murangshan and Li Zihan. There was no other way. Murangzhu, Murangshan and Li Zihan were all as pretty as her, and it was easy for beauties to attract each other. When Mu Hongling joined the crowd, almost all the students had already arrived. Of course, among the students recruited this time, in addition to Li Keishu and Mu Hongling, there were still other powerful talents, but they just didn't show up. Chapter 395 Punishment for Being Late. After seeing the time was up, Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang looked at each other, and then Fen Kang stepped forward and said, "Let's start counting the number of people now." Counting the number of people is to see if anyone is late. This process was very fast. After all, everyone was an evolver with strong reaction speed, so the process of reporting the number was quite fast. 1198, the last person to arrive, reported the number. Hearing this number, Fen Kang couldn't help but smile. However, this smile seemed to be a fox's smile in everyone's eyes. Everyone, the number of people registered here is exactly 1,200, no more and no less. We can be very sure that no one has left this base in the past few days, Fen Kang said loudly. In this case, it can only mean that there are 2 more people who are late. The moment Fen Kang's voice fell, 2 figures were running towards this side quickly. While running, they shouted, "Instructor, we are here." The 2 figures were both boys, about 22 or 23 years old. Everyone looked at the 2 boys, and many of them couldn't help showing a gloating expression on their faces. Being stared at by everyone, the 2 boys were obviously embarrassed, and their faces turned slightly red. After running to Chu Hongsun and Fen Kang, the 2 boys stood at attention. "Instructor, I'm sorry, we are late," the 2 boys said in unison. "It's okay, you have the courage to come and admit that you are late, which is also something worth encouraging," Fen Kang said with a smile. Many people were stunned by Fen Kang's words. "It's okay to be late? Didn't you say that you would be punished for being late? How come it's okay now?" If they had known this, they wouldn't have rushed over so anxiously. The key is that from the way Fen Kang spoke, he didn't seem angry. The 2 boys were also a little surprised. They didn't expect that they were late, but the instructor didn't punish them, and smiled and told them that it was okay. This was beyond their expectations. "Instructor, then, shall we go back to the queue first?" a boy asked. Although the other boy did not speak, he was ready to return to the queue. Just when the 2 of them thought Fen Kang would nod in response, the words that Fen Kang said were like pouring a basin of cold water on them, making them tremble all over. "Don't worry," Fen Kang said with a smile, "things like returning to the queue can be done at any time, but the other thing must be done immediately to be safe." Instructor, what's the matter?" the boy asked in a daze. "It's very simple." Fen Kang stretched out his hand and gestured in a circle, and said with a smile, "This big square, the length of one circle is about 5 kilometers. From now on, you will run around the big square for 100 laps, and then report to me after you finish running. One circle is 5 kilometers. Run 100 laps." Hearing what Fen Kang said, the expressions on many people's faces were slightly stagnant for a moment. What does this mean? It's like asking them to run 500 kilometers. Although they are all evolvers, and although their speed data is not bad, running 500 kilometers is still not an easy job. The 2 boys' eyes widened and their mouths opened wide, and they looked stunned. "PFFT, I'm dying of laughter." They thought they wouldn't be punished. Murangshan couldn't help laughing out loud. She had been observing the changes in the expressions of the 2 boys just now. She could summarize it a little bit, that is, the mood of the 2 boys in the past few minutes was definitely more exciting than riding a roller coaster. As long as Instructor Fen can control his emotions well, people who don't know would really think that Instructor Fen won't punish them, Li Zihan said beside him. Yes, Murangzhu nodded slightly. Lin Fan also smiled faintly. However, although such a punishment sounds a bit severe, they came here to train and improve themselves. It was only the first day of training, and the 2 boys were late. If they were not severely punished, how could the 2 boys remember it? The most important thing is that the instructor also needs to use such things to establish his authority and tell everyone that the instructor's majesty cannot be challenged. What are you 2 still standing there for? Why don't you run? Fen Kang glanced at the 2 boys and saw that they were standing there in a daze. He raised his voice and scolded them. Yes, the 2 boys were frightened by Fen Kang's scolding. After they reacted, they quickly responded. They didn't dare to delay any longer and took action quickly. They all knew that Fenkang was a level 5 evolver, while the two of them were only level 2 evolvers. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were weak in front of Fenkang. Therefore, even if they felt that Fenkang's punishment was a bit heavy, they didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction on the surface, and could only accept such punishment obediently. Seeing that the two boys started to run, Fenkang slowly retracted his gaze. When the two boys were choosing their instructors, they chose him as their instructor. He had the responsibility and obligation to punish the two boys. Running 100 laps around the square, a distance of 500 kilometers, was actually estimated by him. This distance was within the limit that the two boys could bear. If the two boys persevered and finished the run, then to some extent, it would also be considered an exploitation of their potential. Fenkang's eyes swept over everyone and said loudly, "Everyone, I called you here to improve your strength, not to let you be lazy. I don't care how popular you were in your family or power before, but here, you must adjust your mindset. You must know that there are many people who are stronger than you in this world. If you don't adjust your mindset and train well, you will be left further and further behind by others sooner or later. Only by adjusting your mindset and training well can you continuously shorten the distance with others. From today on, I don't want anyone to be late for training in the future. If anyone is late again, I'm putting it here now. The punishment you receive will definitely be much more severe than those two. Do you understand?" Fenkang's words were very penetrating, and everyone could hear them clearly. "Understood," everyone answered without hesitation. They really came here to improve themselves, so naturally they would not make the same mistake as those two boys. Chapter 396 First Training. Hearing everyone's answers, Fenkang nodded with satisfaction. Then, he turned around and looked at Chu Hongxuan. Feeling Fenkang's gaze, Chu Hongxuan walked forward a few steps and came to Fenkang's side. The two boys just now were students in Fenkang's camp. If there was any punishment, it would be Fenkang who would punish them, so naturally it had nothing to do with Chu Hongxuan. However, now that the punishment has been given, they will also start today's training. Everyone, the training is divided into 2 camps. Now you are divided into 2 camps according to the instructors you selected when you registered. Chu Hongxuan also glanced at everyone and said loudly, "If you chose the instructor, all stand on the left. If you chose the instructor, all stand on the right." "Yes," everyone answered in unison again, and then without any delay, they began to choose the positions on the left and right sides according to the instructors they selected. The process was quick and simple. In less than 3 minutes, all the students stood in place. "Come with me over here." Chu Hongxuan glanced at the person on the left, stretched out his hand and waved, and walked to the left first. At the same time, Fenkang also glanced at the people on the right and led them to the right. It can be seen that the two instructors did not want to interfere with each other when they were training. In other words, the content of their training was different. After all, after training for a period of time, the two camps will compete with each other. Whichever camp wins will get rewards. In this way, the two instructors will definitely want to train the students in their own camps to be stronger and more powerful, so as to surpass the other camp. Then, it is understandable that the content and methods of training are different. Chu Hongxuan brought Lin Fan and others to the leftmost position of the square, raised his voice, and said, "The total number of our side is 580, and the total number of Lao Feng's side is 620. Although we do not have any advantage in terms of numbers, I believe that our quality will surpass them. Do you have confidence?" "Yes," everyone responded. "It's good to have confidence." Chu Hongxuan was very satisfied with everyone's attitude and said, "Starting tomorrow, we will gather here every day. We don't need to call the roll with them. Our camp can call the roll separately." When saying this, Chu Hongxuan pointed his finger at the area under his feet, meaning to tell everyone to remember to call the roll here in this area, and not to go anywhere else. Then, in our camp, there are 480 level 2 evolvers and 100 level 3 evolvers. Chu Hongxuan looked at everyone and continued to add, "The training intensity of level 2 evolvers and level 3 evolvers is different. I hope you all can understand this. It's not that I have any selfish motives, but the same training intensity is either unfair to level 2 evolvers or unfair to level 3 evolvers. So, now, I want you to stand again according to your strength. Level 2 evolvers stand on my left-hand side, and level 3 evolvers stand on my right-hand side, in no particular order." Everyone already had a general understanding of this point, so they naturally wouldn't make random guesses, and they wouldn't think Chu Hongxuan was selfish. Soon, 480 level 2 evolvers stood on Chu Hongsun's left, and 100 level 3 evolvers stood on Chu Hongsun's right. Brother Lin Fan. We have 100 level 3 evolvers, so that means Instructor Feng should have at least 100 level 3 evolvers, right? Murin Shen asked in a low voice. Yes, it should be, Lin Fan nodded. The crowd was a bit dense just now, and he couldn't use the ring to read the data information of everyone at once. If so, he didn't know how long it would take to read the data information. So, at this time, he could only rely on their situation to infer and guess to answer Murin Shan's question. There are 580 people on their side, and 100 of them are level 3 evolvers, while Feng Kang has 620 people. I think the number of level 3 evolvers must not be less than 100. After all, those who choose to join Feng Kang's camp should not be that bad. However, what surprised Lin Fan was that Mu Hongling was in their camp, not in Feng Kang's camp. After Chu Hongsun saw that Lin Fan and others had already stood separately according to the second level and third level evolvers, he first looked at the second level evolvers and said, "The preliminary estimate of the training this time is 3 months. You will receive very targeted training, which will allow you to maximize your strength in 3 months, and will also allow your potential to be infinitely stimulated. Today is the first day, and you won't be given too difficult projects. Just do simple plank support." As soon as Chu Hongsun finished speaking, the surroundings fell into a quiet atmosphere, and then the sound of discussion spread. Doing a plank? Isn't that too easy? Yes, we are all evolvers, and our strength in all aspects has been greatly improved. Doing a plank is not a difficult task for us at all. I don't think it's difficult either, but this is the instructor's request. We just need to obey and don't think too much. Yes, that's right. Our instructor is a level 5 evolver and has much more experience than us in these aspects. It's definitely right to listen to the instructor. Then let's get started. Let's see who can hold on longer. Just as everyone was about to lie on the ground and do a plank, Chu Hongsun interrupted them. Don't worry, as you said, you are all evolvers, and a general plank is naturally not a difficult task for you. Chu Hongsun changed his tone and said with a smile, "So, I have to add some difficulty to you, Papa." After speaking, he clapped his hands. After the applause spread, a group of people in military uniforms came out from another direction of the square, including Da Shuang and Zio too. In the hands of Big Bear, Little Rabbit and others, each of them held a number of sandbags. You didn't need to be told that the sandbags were filled with sand. This is a Tenjin sandbag. When you do the plank later, it will be placed on your back. You just need to remember one thing, don't let the sandbag fall off your back. Otherwise you will be eliminated. Those who are eliminated early will be punished, Chu Hongsun said in a serious tone. As for the punishment, I haven't thought about it yet. If you want to know, you can try to make the sandbag fall. Chapter 397 I can't hold on anymore. Chu Hongsun had made it so clear, so how could they dare to drop the sandbags on the ground? That would be asking for trouble. There was no other way. The punishments of the 2 late boys were still fresh in their minds. As long as they turned their heads, they could see the 2 boys running 500 kilometers. With the lessons learned from the past, they did not want to be the teacher of the future. In particular, without knowing what punishment Chu Hongsun would give, they did not have the courage to challenge Chu Hongsun's majesty. Okay, now, all of you lie on the ground and do plank support, Chu Hongsun ordered. The 482nd level evolvers no longer hesitated and lay on the ground together to do plank support. Put the sandbags on them. After seeing them do the plank support, Chu Hongsun looked at Big Bear, Little Rabbit and others and gave them a look. Yes, Big Bear, Little Rabbit and others nodded in response, then took the sandbags and came forward one after another, putting the sandbags on the backs of the 482nd level evolvers one by one. Each sandbag weighs 10 kilograms. When they were first put on, it was not a big problem for these second level evolvers. It mainly depends on how long they can hold on as time goes on. Don't underestimate these 10 kilograms. It may be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Go and get another 20 kilogram sandbag, Chu Hongsun said. Yes, Big Bear, Little Rabbit and others answered and turned away. The 20 kilogram sandbags, no need to guess, are for Lin Fan and other third level evolvers. Their own strength is much stronger than that of the second level evolvers. Using 10 kilogram sandbags is obviously unfair to the second level evolvers. Therefore, the weight of the sandbags should be double for them. Big Bear, Little Rabbit and others are very efficient. After a while, They came back with 20-kilogram sandbags. It's your turn. Chu Hongsun looked at the third-level evolvers with a faint smile on his face. Lin Fan and others did not delay and also lay on the ground to do the plank support. Seeing this, Big Bear, Little Rabbit and others also came forward and put sandbags on them. The weight of 20 kilograms was no problem for Lin Fan. However, it also depends on the length of time. If the time is long enough, the energy consumption of people will not be small. Andy, come here, this is your sandbag. Chu Hongsun's eyes fell on Andy and waved at Andy. With Andy's IQ, he naturally understood what Chu Hongsun meant. He barked twice and quickly ran towards Chu Hongsun. Chu Hongsun took the sandbag specially made for Andy from Big Bear's hand. This sandbag can be put on Andy's back, so that Andy will not drop the sandbag while running. Andy's sandbag, in terms of weight, is also 20 kilograms. Because Andy himself has reached the third level, it is not a big problem to carry a 20-kilogram sandbag on his back. Okay, Andy, your task is to run circles with this sandbag on your back. Run as many laps as you can until you can't hold on any longer. Chu Hongsun put the sandbag on Andy's back and instructed Andy. Hearing this, Andy nodded his head and started running without any delay. Chu Hongsun knew the characteristics of Andy, a German shepherd, and he would never deliberately be lazy like humans. He believed that after he told Andy, Andy would definitely run until he couldn't hold on any longer. Okay. Big Bear, Little Rabbit, you all go do your things. After we finish training here, we will leave the sandbags where they are, and you don't have to come and get them. After Andy ran laps, Chu Hongsun looked at Big Bear and Little Rabbit again and said slowly. Okay, instructor, we'll leave first. Big Bear and Little Rabbit looked at each other and answered in unison. Well, go ahead, Chu Hongsun nodded. Big Bear, Little Rabbit and others didn't waste any more time and turned around and left here. After all, this was the training of Lin Fan and the others. They were only responsible for holding the sandbags. There was no point in staying here any longer. Time passed by bit by bit. In a blink of an eye, an hour had passed. Under normal circumstances, it would be no problem for a level 2 evolver to hold on for an hour. Because the data of level 2 evolvers in all aspects have been significantly improved, an hour is not a problem. But now it is not a normal situation. After all, there are sandbags weighing 10 kilograms on their backs. Don't underestimate the pressure brought by these 10 kilograms. For them, the longer the time, the weight of 10 kilograms may be more than 10 kilograms, which will make them feel that they are getting heavier and heavier. At this time, some level 2 evolvers' bodies have begun to tremble slightly, and beads of sweat have been constantly appearing on their foreheads, faces, and backs. Especially the beads of sweat on their faces, they began to drip down their cheeks to the ground. But they all know that the more times like this, the more they have to grit their teeth and persist. Only by persisting can they squeeze their potential more, make their training more effective, and maximize their strength. Of course, it was not only the level 2 evolvers who were trembling, but also the level 3 evolvers. Adding 20 kilograms of weight to the back was no joke. Under the pressure of this weight, it was perfectly normal for a level 3 evolver to tremble after holding on for an hour. I can't hold on any longer. After another 10 minutes, someone on the level 2 evolver side finally couldn't hold on any longer. After uttering a few words with difficulty, he fell to the ground. There was no other way. He had reached his limit after holding on until now, and it was impossible for him to hold on any longer. Even his hands and body were shaking like that, so he couldn't hold on even if he wanted to. Chu Hongsun could see that this person really reached his limit and couldn't hold on, not that he was pretending to be unable to hold on. This situation was understandable and did not require any punishment. However, he just glanced at the person indifferently and did not say anything to ask the person to sit down and rest nearby. He was worried that once such words were spoken, some people who could still hold on would not want to continue to hold on. I can't hold on any longer. Soon, the second person fell down. Then, the third person, the fourth person, the fifth person, the sixth person, the 15th person, the 20th person fell down one after another. These were all people who fell down because they had reached their limit. No more. 5 minutes later, some of the third-level evolvers also began to fall down. Chapter 398. Only 5 remain. There was no other way. Someone on the level 3 evolver side had also reached his limit. Even if he wanted to continue to hold on, he simply couldn't do it. After all, level 3 evolvers all had dignity. Whoever fell first would feel embarrassed even if others didn't say anything. As the first person to fall, he would definitely lose face. Chu Hongsun glanced at that person and didn't say much, because he could see that the other person was the kind of person who had just broken through to the level 3 evolver, and couldn't even stand firmly as a level 3 evolver. Being able to hold on until this time under the pressure of a 20 jin sandbag was considered good, at least it wasn't even an hour. I can't hold on anymore. After the first level 3 evolver fell, the second level 3 evolver soon fell. The third, the fourth, the sixth, the 10th. The level 3 evolvers also showed various phenomena of not being able to hold on. Just like the level 2 evolvers, it wasn't that they didn't want to hold on, but that they had reached their limit. Lin Fan, Murengzhu, Murenshan and Li Zihan were all fine, especially Lin Fan, whose data had all reached 15. Among the 4 of them, he was the strongest and could hold out the longest. Murengzhu, Murenshan and Li Zihan, although they had only recently entered the 3rd level evolutionary stage, were strong enough to challenge opponents of higher levels. They could hold out longer than those who had just entered the 3rd level evolutionary stage. And Mu Hongling, Lin Fan had just found an opportunity to use the ring to read Mu Hongling's data. Mu Hongling's data had all reached 15, and she had also awakened the ability of a sharpshooter. This was something that surprised Lin Fan. The ability of a sharpshooter meant that it was the same as Murenshan's ability. But at the moment, Mu Hongling's data was higher than Murenshan's, so if Mu Hongling and Murenshan were really allowed to compete in shooting skills, Mu Hongling would definitely be better than Murenshan. In addition to Mu Hongling, there are 3 other level 3 evolvers who are also very strong. However, the strength of those 3, in terms of comprehensive performance, should not be as strong as Mu Hongling. In other words, Mu Hongling may be the strongest person on their side, except for himself. Of course, before actually fighting with Mu Hongling, Lin Fan couldn't judge who was stronger between him and Mu Hongling. 10 minutes later, there were less than 100 of the 480 level 2 evolvers left. And on the level 3 evolvers side, there were only 40 of the total 100, and now there are only 40 left. 8 minutes later, there were 50 level 2 evolvers left. There were 30 level 3 evolvers left. 5 minutes later, the level 2 evolvers were all wiped out. There were 15 level 3 evolvers left. At this time, everyone's eyes were focused on the 15 level 3 evolvers who were still holding on. Brother Lin Fan, I can't hold on any longer, Murenshan said with a trembling body. It doesn't matter if you can't hold on. It's been so long, it's already good, Lin Fan said. Well, then I give up, Murenshan said, and she also stopped holding on. There was no other way, this was indeed her limit. After Murenshan, another level 3 evolver couldn't hold on any longer and also chose to give up. Soon after, Murengzhu and Li Zihan also reached their limits. They looked at each other and gave up at the same time. After a while, only 5 of the 15 level 3 evolvers were still holding on. Of these 5 level 3 evolvers, 2 were naturally Lin Fan and Mu Hongling. The remaining 3 were the 3 people whose strengths Lin Fan had read through the ring. They are so amazing. Yeah, I didn't expect them to be able to hold out for so long, especially that guy. I thought he was a piece of cake before. Now it seems that I misjudged him. Yes, when he was walking beside the 3 beauties, I didn't pay much attention to him. Who would have thought that he was so strong? We should have thought of that just now. If he was ordinary, how could he be qualified to walk beside 3 beauties? Yeah, and I don't know if you have noticed that he seems to be the most stable among the 5. Not only does his body not tremble at all, but even his face doesn't change at all. That's right. Among the remaining 4 people, Mu Hongling is almost the only one who can do this. The other 3 have changed their faces. Maybe he's the winner who laughs last. From the current situation, this possibility is not impossible, and it is even very likely. Everyone's eyes swept back and forth between Lin Fan, Mu Hongling and the other 3. But the person they focused their attention on the most has become Lin Fan. If nothing else, just because of Lin Fan's performance, it is really hard not to attract their attention. Lin Fan naturally ignored these voices of praise. He was very calm from beginning to end. Unless his body was attacked and faced with danger, he would not feel any disturbance. Now they are training here, with Chu Hongsun, a level 5 evolver, sitting here. There is no need to worry about any danger approaching. Therefore, all his thoughts are on doing the plank. Mu Hongling glanced at Lin Fan with her beautiful eyes, thinking to herself, this guy's performance seems to be more stable than mine. Is this strength stronger than mine? Although on the surface, there is no difference between her and Lin Fan now, but from her own perspective, she can see that Lin Fan is more stable than her. She has always been the kind of genius that everyone praises. Among the younger generation, she has never met an opponent who can really match her. Before, she thought that among the students who came to participate in this genius training base, only Li Qiushu could make her pay attention. Unexpectedly, the ability shown by this guy next to her seemed to be no worse than Li Qiushu. From this moment on, Mu Hongling had memorized Lin Fan's face deeply in her heart. Chu Hongsun's eyes swept over Lin Fan, Mu Hongling and others, his eyes full of smiles. He was very satisfied with the performance of Lin Fan, Mu Hongling and others. Because, at this time, in terms of time, Lin Fan, Mu Hongling and others have held on for 2 hours. Being able to hold on until now shows the strength of Lin Fan, Mu Hongling and others. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399 Andy takes a rest. Sister, those 3 guys are pretty strong. They can still hold on until now, and their strength seems to be pretty good. Muren Shan's eyes fell on the 3 boys, staring at them for a while, then turned her head to look at Murenzu and said, "Well, their strength is really good, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to hold on until now." Murenzu nodded. "I guess the strength of the 3 of them should be about the same as my grandfather," Li Zihan said. Li Xianhun's various data have increased by 15, and Li Zihan's analogy is not wrong. However, if you really want to talk about it, the strength of these 3 young boys is definitely stronger than Li Xianhun. But none of them are definitely stronger than Mu Hongling. Muren Shan's eyes quickly shifted to Mu Hongling. Murenzu and Li Zihan also looked at Mu Hongling. Although women have a comparison mentality, they have to admit that Mu Hongling is a very strong woman. As Muren Shan said, Mu Hongling's strength is stronger than those 3 boys. Because, after the 3 boys persisted until now, their bodies began to tremble slightly. Even if this slight tremor was not obvious, it was still there. On the other hand, Mu Hongling did not tremble at all, at most her face was slightly flushed. Such a comparison between the 2 sides can tell who is better. I estimate that her strength should be ranked in the top 5 among all the students. Li Zihan took a deep breath and said slowly. The reason why she said it was the top 5 was mainly because she did not know the situation in Feng Kang's camp, otherwise, she would have said it was the top 3. Yes, her strength will definitely be ranked in the top 5, Murenzu said affirmatively. Anyway, no matter how many top places she ranks, she must not be as good as brother Lin Fan, Muren Shan chuckled. In her eyes, Lin Fan was the most powerful, and Mu Hongling could not be compared with Lin Fan. Muren Shan's statement, Murenzu and Li Zihan naturally would not refute or disagree. After all, judging from the current situation, Lin Fan did perform better than Mu Hongling. Even though the difference between the 2 was very slight, they could also see that Lin Fan would last longer than Mu Hongling. Time passed bit by bit, and soon, another half an hour had passed. Andy is back. Muren Shan was sharp-eyed, and she noticed that Andy had finished running. After running for so long with a sandbag weighing 20 kilograms, Andy had indeed persisted to the point of his own limit. If it had not reached its limit, it would not have been impossible for it not to continue running. Only when it reached its limit would it choose to stop and rest. Because Andy's IQ was not a problem. It knew very well that if it insisted on holding on when it reached its limit, it would only cause its body to suffer a very excessive amount of damage, and it would probably take many days of recuperation before it could get back into training. In this way, it would delay its next training. So, when Andy felt that he had reached his limit, he decisively chose to stop and did not continue to force himself to hold on. Seeing Andy running back, Chu Hongsun was not surprised. He walked to Andy, took off the sandbag on Andy's back, and said, "Andy, you did a good job, take a good rest." Andy did a good job indeed, and he was very satisfied with his ability to hold on for such a long time. Chu Hongsun liked Andy, a mutant dog, very much. The most important thing was that Chu Hongsun was a soldier before, and Andy was a German Shepherd, a serious military dog. Even if Andy had not evolved, Chu Hongsun had a natural affection for the German Shepherd, not to mention that Andy had evolved. Therefore, In Chu Hongson's eyes, Andy was also treated as a good partner. For selfish reasons, he might even be less strict with Andy, hoping that Andy would grow up healthily. Chu Hongson took off the sandbag on Andy's body, and it gave Chu Hongson a thankful look, and then walked towards Murin Zhu, Murin Shan and Li Zihan without stopping. "Andy, come here." Murin Shan smiled and waved at Andy. Hearing Murin Shan's words, Andy walked to Murin Shan without delay. "So good." Murin Shan reached out and touched Andy's head, praising him by the way. Andy didn't run around. After coming to Murin Shan, he squatted down beside Murin Shan and rested on the ground. The exercise just now was really very exhausting for him, and he needed enough rest to adjust back. Of course, after lying on the ground, his eyes were always on Lin Fan, never moving away for a moment. Lin Fan, Mu Hongling and the other 3 boys were still doing the plank exercise. As time went by, the trembling of the 3 boys' bodies began to become more and more obvious. Before, they might tremble once every half a minute, but now, they tremble almost every few seconds, and the amplitude of the trembling is getting bigger and bigger. Anyone with good eyesight can see that the 3 boys are about to face the limit. As for Lin Fan and Mu Hongling, they are still better than the other 3. Mu Hongling's pretty face flushed, but her body still didn't tremble. The occasional tremor didn't count at all. Another 20 minutes passed. "You guys keep holding on. I can't hold on any longer." One of the 3 boys finally couldn't hold on any longer at this time. After saying that, he gave up holding on and lay on the ground to rest. Of course, he didn't lie there for long. It was just a short while before he walked to the side. This range was the range of the competition. If he wanted to rest, he would rest in an area outside this range. It was impossible for him to just lie there and rest. Although lying there and resting wouldn't affect Lin Fan and the others' plank support, everyone was resting in another area. If he stayed here alone to rest, it would be too ostentatious. This was not his character. "I can't hold on any longer either." When this boy just walked to the rest area, the second boy also said something and fell to the ground. "Let's see how you two perform," the third boy followed. Having held on until now, they have really reached their limit. Even if they gritted their teeth and kept telling themselves that they should hold on a little longer, they are still physically exhausted. This kind of thing cannot be changed by strong willpower. Chapter 400. Want to make a bet? With the 3 boys falling, only Lin Fan and Mu Hongling were left doing the plank. At this moment, everyone's eyes were scanning Lin Fan and Mu Hongling. It should have been 3 hours from the beginning to now, right? Let me calculate. Well, it's almost 3 hours. They are really amazing. They have persisted for 3 hours without falling down. Not only did they not fall down, but you can see their condition. Their bodies are not shaking. It is obvious that they can continue to persist. Yes, their bodies are not shaking, which means they can definitely continue to persist. I estimate that both of them can persist for at least 4 hours. 4 hours? That's too long. Although their bodies haven't started to tremble yet, the more time passes, the faster they will consume. Maybe they will start to tremble in 10 or 20 minutes, don't you believe it? Then let's make a bet on whether the 2 of them can persist for more than 4 hours. Do you dare to bet? Why not bet? Tell me. What's the bet? The length of time Lin Fan and Mu Hongling can hold the plank has undoubtedly sparked a heated discussion among the audience. In these discussions, 2 boys have even started to bet on how long they can persist. The content of the bet made by the 2 boys also attracted the attention of many people, and many eyes began to converge on the 2 boys. The 2 boys did not show any shyness and continue their bet. The bet is also very simple. We will not bet too much. We will bet on 2 tubes of mutagenic factors. If the 2 of them can last for more than 4 hours, then I win, and you will give me 2 tubes of mutagenic factors. If the 2 of them cannot last for more than 4 hours, then I lose, and I will give you 2 tubes of mutagenic factors. How about it? The boy said. The other boy did not answer immediately, but calmed down and thought about it, and then said, "Okay, it's decided happily. I don't believe they can last for more than 4 hours." Although he thought Lin Fan and Mu Hongling were both very powerful, he still felt that Lin Fan and Mu Hongling could not last for 4 hours. You know, Lin Fan and Mu Hongling still had 20 gin sandbags on their backs. What kind of burden did they just bear with the 20 gin sandbags? Lin Fan and Mu Hongling could last for 3 hours, which was far beyond their expectations. Haha, can we also participate in your bet? That's right, it can't be just the 2 of you betting. Let us get involved too. How about opening a banker? Yes, We're just betting on 2 tubes of mutagenic factors. If we win or lose, it'll just be a little more." After hearing the content of their bet, some other students also became interested and wanted to participate in this bet. These guys are too much, aren't they? They actually opened a bet at this time. Have they really never seen mutagenic factors? Murin Sham could naturally hear what those people said, and she complained in a bad mood. Murinzu heard her complaining and was about to comfort her. As a result, before she could say the words of comfort, she changed her tone and said, "Can I also participate? I must bet that brother Lin Fan and the others can last for more than 4 hours. I absolutely believe this." Murin Shan's sudden change made Murinzu feel defeated in an instant. Li Zihan, who was standing next to him, was also stunned for a moment, and then shook his head helplessly. He didn't expect Murin Shan to make such a big turn. However, Murinzu and Li Zihan also believed that Lin Fan and Mu Hongling could hold on for more than 4 hours. If Murin Shan really participated in the bet, and the other party, the banker, was willing to accept the loss, then Murin Shan could be said to have won without any loss. Just as everyone was discussing the bet fiercely, Chu Hongsun walked in front of them. "What are you making a fuss about?" Chu Hongsun looked at the 2 boys who made the bet at the beginning with a serious expression, and said in a stern tone, "I asked you to come here to train, not to bet. You to like to bet, right?" Hearing Chu Hongsun's scolding and feeling Chu Hongsun's serious state, the 2 boys were instantly scared. In front of Chu Hongsun, how could they have the courage to bet? The 2 looked at each other, then looked at Chu Hongsun together, shook their heads and said, "Instructor, we were just joking. We don't like betting at all." When they said this, they both had a tacit feeling that they understood each other. They said exactly the same thing. It would not be an exaggeration to say that they spoke in unison. "Just kidding." Chu Hongsun smiled slightly, nodded, and said, "It seems that you like to play around. Since you like to play around so much, I want to play around with you too." Hearing this, one of the boys blinked and asked with some surprise, "Instructor, do you also want to participate in our bet? Or are you interested in our bet?" Chu Hongsun smiled again and said, "No, I am not interested in your bet, and I don't want to participate in your bet. What I want you to play is..." At this point, Chu Hongsun paused for a moment, then pointed to the outer circle of the big square and said, "Now, you 2, start running, and run until Lin Fan and Mu Hongling finish." The 2 boys were stunned, and they felt like they were in a mess in the wind. The key point is that, by coincidence, at this time, a gust of wind really blew, messing up their hairstyles. "It's all your fault." The other boy glared at the boy who had just talked to Chu Hongsun. The meaning was obvious. He was blaming the boy for asking Chu Hongsun if he wanted to participate in their bet, and asked Chu Hongsun if he was interested. The boy who was talking to Chu Hongsun also felt bitter. He saw Chu Hongsun's gentle smile just now, and thought Chu Hongsun was interested in what they said. If he had known that Chu Hongsun was such a smiling tiger, he would never ask Chu Hongsun if he was interested or not, even if he was beaten to death. In fact, what they didn't know was that when the 2 of them first talked about the bet, Chu Hongsun had already made up his mind to give them a severe punishment. Although they both participated in the plank training just now, which consumed a lot of physical strength, they also rested for a long time during that period of time, and their physical strength must have recovered a little. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.